Hello, and welcome tonight. We are stepping into a place forgotten by time, a world wrapped in stone walls and absolute silence. Here, time is not calculated in hours, but measured by the tolling of bells. In this world, sleep is not a right, but a strictly rationed luxury. Welcome to the medieval monastery. Picture yourself standing on a dirt road in the late autumn of the 11th century. The air carries the heavy, damp scent of wet earth and rotting leaves. That specific smell of decay that signals the end of the harvest and the approach of a long, harsh winter. The sky above is the colour of lead, a flat, grey expanse of thick clouds pressing down low, as if they could touch the tops of the trees. Before you stands a massive stone structure. It does not possess the arrogant grandeur of a castle, built for war, nor the chaotic vitality of a market town, built for trade. It simply stands there, silent and immovable, like a geological formation. The walls are constructed of rough, hewn grey granite. Each stone has weathered 100 years of rain and frost, their surfaces slick with a thin, velvet layer of green moss. These walls rise high into the air, effectively severing the internal world from the external one. You approach the heavy oak gate. It is a formidable barrier crafted from timber that was already old when your grandfather was born. The wood grain is deep and coarse, like the skin of an ancient man. The door is studded with black iron nails, each one as large as a fist, staring coldly at visitors. The iron hinges are rusted, promising a dull, grinding complaint if they are ever moved. This door is not merely an entrance, it is a boundary. It is the absolute line that divides the saculum, the secular, noisy world from the sacred. You raise your hand and knock on the iron ring. Dull thud echoes in the empty air, swallowed almost instantly by the surrounding quiet. For a long time, nothing happens. Then, a small viewing hatch slides open. A pair of guarded eyes scrutinizes you from the shadows. There are no greetings, no warm welcomes, only a silent assessment. Then, with the groan of metal against metal, the heavy bolt is drawn back. The gate slowly swings inward. You step over the threshold and into the shadow. The moment you cross that line, the gate closes behind you. That sound, a heavy final thud, resonates through your chest. It sounds like a seal being placed on a tomb. That closing door signifies the end of your secular life. From this moment on, you are no longer a person with a name, a family, or free will. You have become a cog in this vast spiritual machine, a penitent who has traded the present moment for eternity. The first thing you notice is the silence. It is not simply an absence of noise. It is a physical weight. The sounds of the world outside, the wind in the trees, the birds, the distant barking of a village dog, have all been severed. In their place is a suffocating quiet. Your senses, deprived of their usual stimulation, become painfully sharp. You can hear the sound of your own rough breathing. You can hear the scratch of your sandals against the uneven flagstones. You can even hear the rhythmic thumping of your own heart. You look around the vestibule. The floor is paved with cold, grey slate. Between the cracks, small, stubborn weeds tremble in the slight draught. Surrounding you are the high arches of the cloister, stone pillars arranged in perfect, monotonous rows, stretching into the distance, vanishing into the gloom. The light here is strictly controlled. Shadows claim the majority of the space. A monk in a coarse wool habit is there to receive you. He does not speak. He keeps his hands tucked into his sleeves and simply bows his head, signaling for you to follow. His robe is made of undyed wool, a dull, brownish, grey colour that smells faintly of old incense, beeswax, and stale sweat. It is a smell that will become the background of your entire existence. You are led to the reception room, a small, austere chamber. There is no fireplace here, no tapestries to block the draught. There is only a simple wooden table and a hard bench. The walls are bare stone, cold to the touch, seemingly leaching the heat from your body here. You begin to understand the vow of stability. Unlike a wandering knight or a travelling merchant, you are making a promise to fix your body in this specific geographic location for the rest of your life. Unless you die, you will never leave these few acres of land. These high walls are now the ends of the earth. You will walk here, pray here, eat here, and eventually crumble to dust here. You are stripped of your original clothes. The linen shirt, stained with the dust of the road, is taken away. In its place, you are given the tunic. The fabric scrapes against your skin, rough, itchy, and heavy. It is a constant tactile reminder that the physical body is a burden to be conquered, not pampered. You tie a simple leather belt around your waist. It is tight, restricting, symbolizing the binding of your will. Night begins to fall in earnest. Inside the monastery, the light fails quickly. There are no bright lamps here, only the occasional tallow candle, casting a weak, sputtering yellow light that throws long, distorted shadows against the masonry. The air grows colder, a damp chill that settles deep into your bones. You are led towards the dormitory, but it is not time for rest. In this world, the concept of time has been reshaped. You are about to learn that here the night is not for sleeping. It is merely the beginning of another long battle. Standing in this freezing, dim corridor, listening to the wind moan through the cloister arches, you realize the truth. The gate has closed, and it will not open for you again. You are in the place of no return, and the long, silent night is only just beginning. The first sleep is always the deepest, but here it is also the shortest. You have only been asleep for perhaps 3 or 4 hours. The dormitory is pitch black, a vast, cavernous hall filled with the sounds of 40 other men breathing. The air is thick, carrying the smell of unwashed wool, stale straw, and the faint lingering scent of the latrines down the hall. It is a heavy human warmth that contrasts sharply with the freezing stone walls enclosing the room. And then it happens. Clang. The sound is not polite. It does not gently rouse you. It is a violent intrusion. The great bronze bell in the tower above begins to toll. Clang, clang, clang. It is the bell for matins, the night office. It is midnight, or perhaps 2 in the morning. The time varies with the season, but it is always the time when the body most desperately craves rest. The sound vibrates through the stone floor, traveling up the legs of your bed and into your bones. It is a command that cannot be ignored. In the secular world, this is the witching hour, the time for ghosts and deep slumber. But here it is the beginning of the workday. Your eyes fly open, staring into the absolute darkness of the rafters. For a second, there is confusion. Your mind, still fogged by dreams, struggles to remember where you are. You instinctively reach for a blanket that isn't there, or turn to find a comfort that no longer exists. Then, the cold reality settles in. You are a monk. This is your life now. The physical sensation of waking up at this hour is painful. Your limbs feel heavy, as if filled with lead. Your eyes burn dry and gritty, protesting the lack of rest. There is a deep, primal ache in your chest. The biological rhythm of a human being rebelling against the unnatural schedule. Your body temperature is at its lowest point of the day. You are freezing. You do not sleep naked, nor do you sleep in comfortable nightclothes. The rule of St. Benedict is strict. You sleep fully clothed. In your habit, your belt tied around your waist. This is for readiness, to be like the soldiers of Christ, always ready to spring into action. But practically, it means you wake up in clothes that are twisted, wrinkled, and damp with the sweat of sleep. The wool is scratchy against your neck. The leather belt has dug into your side around you. The dormitory comes to life, not with conversation, but with the rustle of straw. The mattresses here are not feather beds. They are simple sacks filled with straw or corn husks. As 40 men sit up in the darkness, the sound is like a sudden wind moving through a dry field. Crackle, rustle, shift. There is no talking. The great silence, which began the night before, is still in effect. No word may be spoken until the sun has fully risen. This adds a surreal, ghostly quality to the scene. You hear the thud of feet hitting the wooden floorboards. You hear a cough, a groan of stiff joints, the sharp intake of breath as someone steps onto a particularly cold patch of floor. But no voices. Just the shuffling of shadows in the dark. You swing your legs over the side of the bed. The air in the dormitory is frigid. In winter, it is not uncommon to wake up and find a thin layer of frost on the blanket where your breath has condensed and frozen. The cold hits your face like a physical slap. It wakes you up, but it also makes your muscles tense and shiver uncontrollably. You fumble in the dark for your sandals. They are leather, stiff and cold. Your fingers, numb and clumsy, struggle with the straps. There is a specific anxiety in these moments, the fear of being late. To be late for the office is a serious fault. If you arrive after the first psalm has begun, you must prostrate yourself in the center of the choir in shame. So, you hurry. You smooth down your tunic, shake the loose straw from your clothes, and pull your cowl up over your head. The bell is still ringing. Clang, clang. It is relentless. It is the heartbeat of the monastery, driving you forward. You join the line of dark shapes moving towards the door. The monks move in a procession, a river of grey wool flowing into the corridor. There is a unique smell to this time of night, the scent of sleep breath, old fabric, and the piercing, metallic smell of the frost outside. You are tired. It is a bone-deep exhaustion that never truly goes away. You are chronically sleep-deprived. The monastic schedule breaks sleep into segments, never allowing for a full 8 hours of uninterrupted rest. You sleep for 4 hours, wake for prayer, sleep for 3 hours, wake for dawn. Your body is in a constant state of jet lag. As you walk, you stumble slightly, your equilibrium thrown off by the darkness and fatigue. But you keep moving. The bell calls. The stone floor is uneven beneath your thin soles. You leave the relative warmth of the dormitory and step into the night stairs that lead down to the church. The air here is even colder, smelling of damp stone and ancient incense. You are awake. The world is asleep. You are awake. The bell stops ringing, leaving a ringing silence in your ears that is louder than the noise itself. You have survived the waking. Now, you must survive the night. The journey from the dormitory to the church is not a long one in terms of distance, perhaps only 100 paces. But in the dead of winter, in the middle of the night, it feels like a pilgrimage across a frozen wasteland. You are now standing at the top of the night stairs. These are a specific architectural feature of the monastery, designed solely for this moment. They connect the sleeping quarters directly to the south transept of the church, allowing the brothers to descend rapidly for the night office without stepping outside into the elements. However, inside is a relative term in the 11th century. There is no glass in the windows here, only wooden shutters that rattle against the stone in the wind. The draft is constant. It acts like a living thing, a cold spirit that hunts for any exposed skin. As you begin your descent, the air changes. The heavy, humid smell of the dormitory is left behind, replaced by the scent of the earth itself, cold, mineral, and damp. You take the first step down. Your sandals are thin leather, worn smooth by months of walking. They offer little protection against the cold. The steps are made of limestone, quarried from the local hills. During the day, they are just stairs, but at night they seem to absorb the freezing temperature of the ground below and radiate it upward. Step, you can feel the grit of the stone through the thin sole of your shoe. Step, the stone sucks the warmth from your feet. It is an aggressive cold, a numbness that starts at your toes and creeps up your ankles. You wrap your arms tight inside your wide sleeves, hugging your own ribcage, trying to preserve the small pocket of body heat generated by your torso. The staircase is narrow and spiraling. There is no handrail, only the rough texture of the wall to guide you. The stone is slick with condensation. Your hand brushes against it. It is wet, weeping with the moisture of the night. It feels like touching the skin of a cold-blooded animal. You are not alone, yet you are entirely isolated. Ahead of you, the dark shape of Brother Thomas moves silently. Behind you, you can hear the soft, rhythmic breathing of Brother John, a long line of shadows descending into the abyss. No one speaks, no one looks at another. You are a collective entity, a single organism moving with a singular purpose. Yet each man is locked inside his own private fortress of cold and fatigue. The darkness here is absolute. There are no torches on the stairs to save money on wax and oil. You navigate by muscle memory and by the faint, grey light that might filter in if the moon is full. Tonight, there is no moon. You are walking blind. You must trust your feet to find the edge of each step. There is a specific kind of focus required to walk down stone stairs in the dark while exhausted. A trance-like state where you are hyper, aware of gravity and balance. As you reach the bottom of the stairs, the acoustic changes. You are leaving the confined space of the stairwell and entering the vast hollow belly of the church. The air here is different again. It is still. It is vast. It smells of old wax, dry dust, and the lingering smoke of incense burned hours ago at Vespers. The floor changes too. You step off the stairs onto the flagstones of the transept. These stones are larger, uneven, and infinitely colder. They have been freezing all night, absorbing the chill of the crypts that lie beneath the floor. You walk towards the choir stalls. The church is a cavern of shadows. High above, the vaulted ceiling is lost in darkness. You cannot see the roof, only the void. The pillars rise up like petrified trees in a black forest. The silence here is heavy, sacred, and intimidating. It presses against your ears. The temperature in the church is often lower than the temperature outside. The thick walls insulate the building, trapping the cold of winter inside long after the spring has arrived. But now, in autumn, it is simply a tomb. You can see your breath puffing out in small grey clouds before your face. Vanishing into the dark, you find your place in the choir stall. The wood of the stall is oak polished by generations of elbows and hands. It is hard and unyielding. There are no cushions. You stand. You wait. The cold from the stone floor seeps up through your legs, making your knees ache. You are awake. You are cold. You are silent. And you are waiting for the first word to break the heavy stillness of the night. You are standing in your stall. The wood is hard against your back. The church is vast, a cavern of darkness. But now a small island of light has appeared. In the center of the choir stands a large, heavy wooden lectern. Upon it rests the antiphonary, a massive book bound in leather and reinforced with brass corners. The pages are thick vellum, heavy and cream-colored. Beside the book, a single candle burns. This is not the clean, white light of modern electricity. It is a living, breathing flame. It is likely a tallow candle made from rendered animal fat, because beeswax is expensive and reserved for the altar. Tallow smells. As it burns, it releases a greasy, acrid scent. The smell of cooking fat mixed with soot. It sputters and smokes, casting a frantic, dancing light across the pages of the book. The shadows in the church are not static. Because the light source is flickering, the shadows move. They stretch and contract against the stone walls. The pillars seem to sway, the statues of the saints in the niches, look as though they are breathing. In your sleep-deprived state, your mind begins to play tricks on you. You see movement in the corner of your eye, but when you turn, there is nothing but the grey stone. Then the sound begins. It starts with a single voice, the cantor. It is a high, clear note that cuts through the stagnant air. Then the rest of the community joins in. Domine, labia maboris. Lord, open my lips. The sound is not like a choir performance you might hear in a concert hall. It is deeper, rougher, and more masculine. It is a drone, a low rhythmic rumble of 40 men chanting in unison. The acoustic of the stone church catches the sound, amplifies it, and holds it in the air, creating a natural reverb that makes the voices sound larger than they are. You join the chant. You do not need the book. You have memorized these psalms. You have sung them every night for years. They are etched into your brain. Your mouth forms the Latin words automatically, without conscious thought. Deus in adiutorium meum intend. God, come to my assistance. The monotony is the enemy. The rhythm is slow, steady, and hypnotic. It is designed to calm the mind, but at 2 a.m. it acts like a lullaby. This is the battle of matins. It is a physical struggle to remain upright. Your eyelids feel heavy, coated in sand. Your head grows heavy on your neck. It dips forward, a nod. You jerk it back up, panic flaring in your chest. Did anyone see? The cicada, the monk assigned to patrol the choir with a lantern, is walking silently between the rows. He is looking for sleeping brothers. If he catches you, he will not say a word. He will simply shine his lantern in your face, or perhaps gently shake your hood. The shame of being caught sleeping during the divine office is a penance you do not want to perform tomorrow. You try to focus on the sensory details to stay awake. You focus on the smell of the smoke. You focus on the bitter cold biting at your toes. You focus on the rough texture of the wood under your hand. The service drags on. Psalm after psalm, reading after reading. It takes an hour, sometimes 90 minutes. The time stretches, the candle burns lower, the wax dripping down the side in long, pale tears. The air grows stuffy with the breath of the monks, yet remains freezing cold. Finally, the last response is sung. The last prayer is muttered. The silence rushes back in to fill the space, louder than before. The candle is snuffed out, leaving a trail of grey smoke drifting up into the black void of the ceiling. You have survived the night watch, but the night is not over. Now comes the cruelest part of the routine. The bell has stopped. The last echo of the chant has faded into the stone walls. The candle at the lectern has been snuffed out, plunging the church back into the heavy, suffocating darkness of the early morning. It is now roughly 3 o'clock in the morning. You turn from the choir stall, your body stiff and aching from an hour of standing on the freezing flagstones. The procession reforms in the dark. You are no longer descending into the depths. You are climbing back up the night stairs towards the dormitory. This is the cruelty of segmented sleep. In the modern world, sleep is expected to be a solid block of 8 hours. But here, sleep is broken in 2. You have had your first sleep. Now you face the interval, and soon you will attempt the second sleep. But the body is confused. You have just spent an hour chanting, engaging your mind and your voice. You are awake, your blood is moving, and now you are commanded to instantly return to a state of rest. The climb up the spiral stairs feels harder than the descent. Gravity pulls at your heavy woolen robes. The cold air of the stairwell seems to have thickened while you were praying. You can hear the soft scuffing of leather sandals on stone, a rhythmic shuffling that sounds like a heartbeat slowing down. You re-enter the dormitory. It is exactly as you left it, cold, dark, and smelling of straw. You find your way back to your pallet by counting the steps in the dark Femin 2, 3. Turn left. You find the wooden frame of your bed. The straw mattress has gone cold in your absence. When you left it an hour ago, there was a faint depression where your body had lain, a small pocket of warmth trapped in the corn husks. That warmth is gone now. The straw is stiff and unyielding. You sit down on the edge of the bed, the rustling sound loud in the silent room. You do not undress. You simply lie back down, pulling the rough woolen blanket up to your chin. The fabric is coarse and smells of dust. You curl into a ball, tucking your knees up to your chest, trying to preserve whatever heat remains in your core. Now begins the struggle to fall back asleep. Your mind is racing. Fragments of the psalms you just sang drift through your head. For miserere mei, Deus, you worry about the day ahead. You worry about the ink you must mix in the scriptorium. You worry about the penance you might receive for a small fault. The dormitory is not silent. It is filled with the sounds of 40 men trying to settle down. You hear the shifting of weight on wooden boards. You hear a cough that echoes in the rafters. You hear the deep, rhythmic breathing of a brother who has managed to fall asleep instantly, a sound that fills you with a quiet, desperate envy. Time passes slowly in the dark. You lie there, staring up at nothing. You know that the next bell, the bell for Thintlord Sid, the morning prayer, will ring at first light. That might be in 2 hours or perhaps 3. This knowledge creates a pressure in your chest. You show most to sleep. If you do not sleep now, you will not survive the labor of the day. You close your eyes, you force your breathing to slow down. You listen to the wind rattling the shutters. Slowly, the cold becomes less sharp. The scratchiness of the wool becomes less irritating. Your thoughts begin to fragment. You drift into a shallow, fragile doze. It is not a deep, restorative sleep. It is a grey, thin layer of unconsciousness, haunted by the anticipation of the next bell. You are suspended between the waking world and the dream world, floating in the dark, waiting for the inevitable sound of bronze striking bronze that will drag you back to the stone floor once again. It feels as though you have only closed your eyes for a moment when the sound returns. Clang, clang, clang. The bell cuts through your thin, grey sleep. This is the summons for Fora Lordsiv. The morning prays. It signals the arrival of dawn, though inside the dormitory it is often still pitch black. Waking up the second time is infinitely worse than the first. Your body has just begun to settle into the deep REM cycles it was denied earlier. To be ripped out of that state creates a physical nausea, a disorientation known as sleep inertia. Your head swims. Your heart pounds sluggishly. For a moment, you do not know who you are or why you are here. But the habit is muscle memory. You sit up. The cold is no longer a shock. It is just a fact of existence, as constant as the stone walls. You slide your feet back into your stiff leather sandals. They have not warmed up. Around you, the other monks are rising like ghosts from their graves. The rustle of straw is slower now, heavy with reluctance. There is the sound of a suppressed yawn, crack of a knee joint, the heavy sigh of a man facing another day of labor. You move to the window and push open the wooden shutter. The light outside is not the golden, hopeful sun of a painting. It is grey, a flat, colourless light that barely distinguishes the earth from the sky. Mist clings to the monastery grounds, thick and wet, obscuring the garden walls. The world looks washed out, drained of colour. This is the grey dawn. It is the time when the silence feels most heavy. The birds have started to sing, a chaotic noise that contrasts with the strict order of your life. You can hear the distant lowing of cattle in the grange, waiting to be milked. You join the line again. The procession moves back down the stairs, back to the church, but this time, the atmosphere is different. The candle at the lectern is not needed as much. As the service progresses, the grey light filters through the high windows, slowly revealing the dust motes dancing in the air. Laudate Dominum Dice Lis. Praise the Lord from the heavens. Your voice is raspy, coated in the phlegm of sleep. The chanting at Lord's is more energetic than matins, but your body drags behind. You are awake, but you are not sudalive. You are operating on duty and discipline alone. The service lasts perhaps 45 minutes. As it ends, the sun finally breaks the horizon. The day has officially begun. But before you can eat, before you can work, there is a necessary, unpleasant ritual to attend to. The bell stops, but the cold remains. The service of Lords has ended. The sun has fully risen, revealing a world of grey stone and damp earth. You file out of the church and into the cloister walk. It is time for the morning. Toilet. Do not imagine a bathroom. Do not imagine privacy. Do not imagine hot water. You arrive at the philavatorium. This is a long stone trough set into the wall of the cloister, often near the entrance to the dining hall. It is lined with lead and fed by a diverted stream or a cistern. In the winter, the water in the trough does not flow. It sits stagnant and freezing. Often, a thin crust of ice has formed over the surface during the night. You stand in line, waiting for your turn. When you step up to the trough, you must break the ice with your bare knuckles. Tea, crack. The sound is sharp in the quiet morning. You plunge your hands into the water. It is a shock to the system so violent it almost takes your breath away. The water bites your skin, turning your fingers red, then blue within seconds. There is no soap as we know it, no scented lather to wash away the grime. Perhaps there is a mixture of ash and fat for the laundry, but for your face it is just the freezing water and the friction of your own calloused palms. You scrub your face vigorously, trying to wake up your nerves, trying to scrub away the sleep and the grease of the night. You do not bathe your body. Full immersion baths are considered a luxury, a sign of vanity, and are permitted only a few times a year, usually before Christmas, Easter, and perhaps Pentecost. For the rest of the year, you are a dry wash creature. You live in a layer of your own accumulation. The most dreaded part of the ritual is the towel. Hanging next to the trough is the communal towel. It is a long strip of coarse linen, changed perhaps once a week. By Wednesday, it is damp. By Friday, it is stiff. By Sunday morning before the change, it is a map of the monastery's collective grime. You reach for it. The fabric is rough, like sandpaper against your freezing, sensitive skin. It smells of damp mildew and 40 other men. You dry your hands and face as best you can, but you never feel truly dry. The dampness clings to you, seeping back into your wool sleeves, ensuring that you remain cold for the next hour. There is no mirror. You have not seen your own reflection in years, except perhaps as a distorted ghost in a puddle of rain. You do not know if you have aged. You do not know if you look tired. You only know that you are clean enough to enter the presence of the abbot, but never clean enough to feel comfortable. The washing is done. Your hands are numb blocks of ice. It is time for judgment. Clean, or at least, you proceed immediately to the chapter house. This is the administrative and disciplinary heart of the monastery. It is a large room, usually square or rectangular, with stone benches running along the four walls. At the front sits a high wooden chair, the throne of the abbot. You enter silently and take your designated seat on the hard stone bench. The hierarchy here is absolute. The oldest monks sit nearest the abbot. The novices sit furthest away, near the draughty door. You sit, tuck your hands into your sleeves, and lower your eyes. The meeting begins with a reading from the Faux de Martyrology, a gruesome list of saints who died terrible deaths on this day in history. Beheaded, boiled, flayed, burned. It is a cheerful reminder of what true devotion looks like. Then a chapter from the Sign Rule of St. Benedict Hyde is read aloud. This is the law code of your existence. Every aspect of your life, how you sleep, how you eat, how you pray, how you are punished, is written in this book. Listen, my son, to the Master's instructions, and attend to them with the ear of your heart. The reading ends. The book is closed. Now comes the part everyone fears, the chapter of faults. The abbot looks around the room. His gaze is heavy. Let those who have failed speak. This is the daily tribunal. There are no lawyers here, only accusers. You must stand up and confess your own minor sins. Reverend Father, I was late for matins. I broke silence in the cloister. I spilled ale in the refectory. If you do not confess, others will do it for you. A brother stands and points a finger. I accuse Brother Thomas of sleeping during the Psalms. I accuse Brother John of keeping a piece of bread in his habit. There is no defense. To defend oneself is the sin of pride. You must accept the accusation immediately. You step into the center of the room and prostrate yourself, lying flat on your stomach, face pressed against the cold floor, arms spread in a cross. You are a worm before God. Mea culpa, you whisper into the dust. My fault. For minor faults, the punishment is a public rebuke or a special fast. But for serious faults or repeated laziness, the discipline is physical. The abbot nods to the cervicellera. A bundle of birch rods is produced. You do not look up, but you hear the sound, the swish of the rod through the air, the sharp theft against fabric and flesh. It is not a beating to withstand, it is a beating to humble. The sound echoes off the stone walls, a rhythmic, dry percussion that makes every man in the room flinch internally. The air in the chapter house is thick with tension and the smell of fierce sweat. This is the daily reinforcement of order. You are not an individual. You are a part of a body that must be pruned to be perfect. When it is over, the punished monk stands, bows, and returns to his seat, his face pale, his back burning. The abbot stands. The meeting is adjourned. You file out in silence. Your soul is cleansed, but your nerves are frayed. And now, the real work of the day begins. You leave the chapter house and step back into the cloister. The sun is higher now, casting sharp, geometrical shadows across the stone arcades. The world is awake, but here it is mute. You are now entering the period of the daytime silence. While the great silence of the night is absolute, the daytime silence is functional. You are permitted to speak only if it is strictly necessary for the work. And even then, it must be done in a whisper, in a designated area. For the most part, you are expected to navigate your life without words. This creates a strange underwater atmosphere. The monastery is a hive of activity. Monks are moving, carrying baskets, tools, and books. But there is no chatter. There is only the sound of industry, the scuff of leather sandals, the rustle of wool, the clatter of a wooden bucket, the distant ring of a blacksmith's hammer. To communicate, you use a language older than the spoken word here, signa, monastic sign language. It is a complex lexicon of hand gestures, developed over centuries to circumvent the rule against speech. It is not the fluid, expressive sign language of the modern deaf community. It is utilitarian, rigid, and often strangely literal. Imagine you need bread at the dinner table. You do not ask for it. You make a circle with your thumbs and forefingers, the shape of a loaf. If you need fish, you mimic the motion of a fish's tail with your hand, waving it side to side. If you need a book, you extend your hand and move your fingers as if turning pages. If you need wine, a rare treat, you place your finger on your lip and tilt your head back. You become a master of mime. You watch hands obsessively. A flick of a wrist means go. A tapped chest means confession. A hand over the eyes means night. The suppression of speech has a physical effect on your body. You feel the words piling up in your throat, a pressure building behind your teeth. The urge to make a noise just to prove you exist can be overwhelming. You find yourself humming quietly while you walk, or clearing your throat louder than necessary, just to break the vacuum. But the silence also changes your hearing. Without the distraction of constant human babble, your ears tune into the microscopic sounds of the building. You hear the wind whistling through a crack in the masonry. You hear the scratching of a mouse in the wainscoting. You hear the groan of the timber beams settling in the roof. You walk to your assigned task. You pass a brother scrubbing the floor. He does not look up. He does not say good morning. He is in his own world of silent prayer. You are together, shoulder to shoulder, yet you are each on a solitary island. You reach the heavy oak door of the North Range. You push it open. The smell hits you before you see the room. It is the smell of death and chemistry. It is time for work. You enter the workshop next to the scriptorium. This is where the books begin, but before a book can be written, a skin must be flayed. We often romanticize the medieval library, the smell of old leather and wisdom. We forget that every page of every holy book was once a living animal. A single Bible requires the skins of perhaps 200 sheep or calves. The monastery is not just a library, it is a factory of skin. This room is the parchmenter's workshop. The air here is thick, humid, and acrid. It smells of lime calcium hydroxide, wet wool, and raw meat. It is a smell that clings to the back of your throat. Your task today is the preparation of the parchment. It is brutal, physical, and repetitive labor. First, the skins arrive from the butcher. They are bloody, greasy, and covered in wool. You take a heavy, wet skin. It weighs perhaps 20 pounds. And you drop it into a vat of lime and water. The lime is caustic. It burns your eyes if it splashes. The skins must soak here for days, sometimes weeks, until the hair follicles dissolve and loosen. You stand over the vat, stirring the grey, murky soup with a long wooden pole. The sound is a wet, sucking slap, slosh, slosh. When the skin is ready, you pull it out. It is slippery, grey, and swollen. You drape it over a wooden beam called a hearse. Now comes the scraping. You pick up a knife. It is not a straight knife, but a curved, two-handled blade called a sine lunellum, little moon. You lean your body weight into the beam. You press the blade against the wet skin and push. Scrape, scrape. A line of grey sludge. Dissolved hair, fat, and flesh peels away. Scrape. You must remove every trace of the animal. If you leave any fat, the ink will not stick. If you leave any hair, the surface will be rough. But you must be careful. If you press too hard, you will slice the skin, ruining a week's work. It is a task of high tension and brute force. Your arms ache. Your back screams. You are sweating in the humid room, the lime dust settling on your skin, drying it out until it cracks. Once the skin is scraped clean, it is white, translucent, and rubbery. Now it must be stretched. You take the wet skin to a rectangular wooden frame. You cannot nail it down, or it will tear as it shrinks. Instead, you use pippins, small pebbles wrapped in the edge of the skin, and tie cords around them. You tighten the cords on the frame. The skin stretches. It groans under the tension. It must be tight as a drum. In fact, if you flick it with your finger, it should ring. Thrum. Now, while it dries, you must scrape it again. And again you rub pumice stone over the surface to sand it down. White dust fills the air like flour in a bakery, but it is the dust of skin and stone. You breathe it in. It coats your eyelashes. This is the reality of the Word of God. Before it is gold leaf and Latin, it is sweat, lime, and the scraping of a dead sheep's hide. You look at the frame. The skin is drying, becoming taut and pale. It is ready for the scribes. You wipe your lime, burned hands on your apron. You have prepared 1 page. 200 more to go. You leave the parchment workshop and wipe the lime dust from your hands. You enter the scriptorium proper. This is the noble heart of the monastery, the place where knowledge is preserved against the decay of the ages. But do not imagine a warm, cozy study. The scriptorium is often located in the cloister walk, open to the elements on one side to maximize the light, or in a large room above the chapter house. In either case, fires are forbidden. A stray spark could destroy 1,000 years of history in moments. So, in winter, the ink freezes in the horn. You sit at your desk, a slanted wooden board that forces you to hunch forward. Before you can write, you must become a chemist. You do not buy ink, you brew it. You take oak galls, hard, round growths found on oak trees, caused by wasp larvae. You crush them with a hammer. Crunch. They are bitter and full of tannic acid. You soak them in rainwater or wine for days until the liquid turns brown. Then you add the magic ingredient, vitriol, iron sulfate. As you stir the iron into the tannin, a chemical reaction occurs. The brown liquid instantly turns a deep, violent black. This is iron gall ink. It is acidic. It bites into the parchment, burning the words into the skin forever. If you make it too strong, it will eat right through the page. You pick up your quill. It is a goose feather, preferably from the left wing, so it curves away from your hand. You must cut the nib fresh every hour with your pen. Knife. The tip must be sharp enough for a hairline stroke, but flexible enough not to snag. You dip the pen, you begin to copy. In principio erat verbum. In the beginning was the word. Writing is not merely an intellectual act. It is a physical endurance test. As a monk wrote in the margin of a manuscript in the 9th century, 3 fingers hold the pen, but the whole body toils. You must hold the pen with a tight 3-fingered grip. You cannot rest your wrist on the page, or the grease from your skin will ruin the parchment. So your arm hovers, unsupported. For hours, the muscles in your shoulder begin to burn. Your back aches from the hunch. Your eyes water from straining to see the faint blue guidelines pricked into the page. And you cannot make a mistake. Parchment is too expensive to waste. If you write the wrong letter, you cannot crumple the page. You must take your knife and physically scrape the ink off the surface of the skin until it is white again. Then you burnish it with a bore, S-tooth to smooth it down. If you scrape too deep, you make a hole. The silence in the scriptorium is absolute, broken only by the scratch, scratch of 20 quills moving in unison, and the occasional sigh of a scribe stretching a cramping hand. You are copying a text you may not even understand. You are painting letters like tiny architectural structures. The ink stains your fingers black, a stain that will not wash off for days. Your eyes grow dim as the afternoon light fades. You are preserving the light of the world, but you are slowly going blind in the process. The bell rings again. The quill is laid down. The ink is capped. It is time for labora, manual work. The rule of St. Benedict states, idleness is the enemy of the soul. Therefore, the brothers must be occupied at specified times in manual labour. You leave the intellectual rigours of the scriptorium and step out into the fields. The monastery is a self-sustaining machine. It needs food, fuel, and maintenance. You trade your pen for a hoe. You walk to the monastery gardens. The soil here is heavy clay. difficult to work. It clings to your sandals, adding weight to every step. You are assigned to the vegetable patch. Here, you grow the fuel for the brotherhood, rows of onions, leeks, cabbages, beans, and peas. The work is monotonous. You lift the hoe, you strike the earth. You pull, thud, drag, thud. Drag your hands already cramped from holding the quill. Now blister around the rough wood of the handle. Your back, stiff from hunching over the desk, now screams as you bend over the soil. There is no conversation to pass the time. You work in silence. You are meant to meditate while you work, to rhythmically repeat psalms in your head. Thud, the Lord is my shepherd. Thud, I shall not want. But often the physical sensation overrides the spiritual. You feel the sweat trickling down your spine under your heavy wool habit. The wool does not breathe. It traps the heat and the moisture, creating a personal sauna of discomfort. The flies buzz around your face, attracted to the sweat. You cannot swat them away constantly. You must simply endure the tickle. In the distance, you see other brothers performing their tasks. Some are in the orchard, pruning the apple trees. Others are by the river, washing the laundry in the freezing water, beating the heavy wet wool against stones. Some are in the bakery, their faces flushed red from the heat of the ovens, hauling sacks of flour that coat them in white dust. It is the curse of Adam. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. The physical exertion exhausts the body, designed to crush the libido and the wandering will. You are too tired to sin. You are too tired to dream of rebellion. You are a machine of production. The sun beats down on your tonsured head. The skin of your scalp, usually protected by a hood, burns easily. You feel the heat radiating from the dark earth. You dig another row. You pull another weed. You plant another seed. The cycle of the garden mirrors the cycle of the monastery, planting, growing, dying, and beginning again. Just as you find a rhythm in your work, just as your muscles warm up and the task becomes almost meditative, the interruption comes. Clang, clang. It is the bell for sext, the 6th hour, roughly noon. This is the relentless nature of the monastic schedule. You are never allowed to finish a task on your own time. You are a slave to the bell. You must drop your hoe immediately. You cannot finish the row. You cannot plant the last seed. Obedience is better than sacrifice. You wipe the dirt from your hands onto your habit. It is already stained, so it matters little. You join the line of sweating, tired men walking back from the fields. The sun is at its peak now. The transition from the bright, hot garden to the dim, cool church is jarring. Your eyes struggle to adjust to the gloom. The sweat on your body cools rapidly in the stone draft, sending shivers through your damp clothes. Sext is a short office, perhaps 20 minutes. It is followed almost immediately by none the 9th hour, roughly 3 p.m. In winter, these are pushed together. In summer, they are separated. Standing in the choir now is a struggle against a different kind of fatigue. It is not the sleep deprivation of matins. It is the physical exhaustion of labor combined with the gnawing pain of hunger. You have not eaten since yesterday. The rule allows for only 1 or 2 meals a day, depending on the season. In the winter fast, you do not eat until mid-afternoon. Your stomach cramps. It makes noises, gurgles and growls that echo in the silent church. This is humiliating. Common. Every man here is hungry. You try to focus on the chant, but your mind drifts to bread. You imagine the texture of the crust, the taste of the salt, panem nostrum, quotidianum, de nobis, Hodi, give us this day our daily bread. You sing the words with a desperation that is entirely literal. The prayers drone on. The air is heavy with the smell of unwashed bodies. 40 men who have been working in the fields in wool tunics. It is a thick, sour, earthy smell. The final Amen is sung. The hunger has sharpened your senses. You file out of the church, not to the dormitory, but finally to the refectory. You enter the refectory, the dining hall. It is a long, high-ceilinged room with tables running along the walls, leaving the center empty. The tables are set with simple wooden trenchers, plates, and earthenware mugs. The smell of food hits you like a physical blow. It is simple food, boiled vegetables, grains. But to a starving man, it smells like a royal banquet. Saliva floods your mouth. But you cannot eat yet. You stand behind your bench. You wait for the abbot to enter. He walks to the high table at the end of the room. He rings a small hand. Bell, ting. Grace is sung. It is a long, elaborate prayer. You stare at the food on the table, your hands clasped in your sleeves, your stomach twisting. Finally, the prayer ends. You sit. But even now, there is no conversation. The meal is a silent activity. As you reach for your bread, a voice begins to read. In a small pulpit projecting from the wall, high above the tables, the lector, reader begins the daily reading. It is usually from the Bible or the lives of the church fathers. His voice must be loud and clear, projecting over the sound of eating. This is the soundtrack of your dinner, and it came to pass that when he was come near to Jericho, the only other sounds are mechanical, the scraping of wooden spoons on wooden bowls, the tearing of bread crusts, the sound of swallowing. No one looks at anyone else. You keep your eyes on your plate, custody of the eyes. To look around, to enjoy the food too visibly, is a sign of gluttony. You use your hand signals. You catch the eye of the server, the refectorian. You make the circle sign for bread. He places a loaf in front of you. You cut it with your personal knife. The crust is hard and black, baked days ago. You dip it into your bowl to soften it. The meal is eaten quickly. There is no lingering. You eat to fuel the machine. You chew in time with the rhythm of the lector. voice Jesus. Thou Son of David, have mercy on me. The food is warm, filling the cold void in your belly. It induces a sudden, heavy lethargy. The postprandial dip. Your blood rushes from your brain to your stomach. Your eyelids droop. But there is no nap. The bell will ring again soon. The cycle continues. Let us look closer at what you are eating. The medieval monastic diet is designed to sustain life, not to please the palate. It is a menu of humility. The main dish, served in your wooden bowl, is pottage. It is a thick brown stew that has been simmering in a cauldron since dawn. The base is usually field beans or dried peas pottage. To this, the cook adds onions, leeks, garlic, and herbs from the garden to mask the blandness. On lucky days, there might be a bit of salted fish, or perhaps an egg. But there is no meat. The flesh of four-footed animals is strictly forbidden to healthy monks. Meat excites the passions, vegetables dull them, so you eat beans, day after day. The texture is mushy, yet sometimes gritty, if the vegetables were not washed well. Then there is the bread. This is the staple of your life. You are allotted 1 pound of bread per Dalton Y. It is not white, fluffy wheat bread. That is for the aristocracy. This is maslin bread, a dense, heavy mixture of wheat and rye. The crust is thick and hard enough to break a tooth. You must chew it slowly, letting your saliva break down the starch. The flour is stone, ground, which means it contains microscopic particles of rock from the millstone. Over the years, this grit slowly grinds your teeth down flat. To wash it down, you drink ale. You do not drink water, for the water in the river is often unsafe. The ale is small beer, weak, cloudy, and slightly sour. It has a low alcohol content, perhaps 1% or 2%, just enough to kill the bacteria, but not enough to intoxicate. It is tepid, served at room temperature from a leather pitcher. It tastes of yeast and roasted barley. You finish your meal, you wipe your knife on a piece of bread and eat the bread. There is no waste. You collect the crumbs from the table with your brush and place them in your bowl. The meal ends as it began, with a bell. You stand, you bow to the high table. You file out, your stomach full of heavy dough and beans, your body sluggish, ready to face the afternoon. It is not just the stomach that suffers, it is the skin. Every few weeks, usually before a major feast day, the brothers gather in the cloister for the rasura. The shaving, you sit on a stool. Another monk, functioning as the barber, stands behind you with a razor. He wets your head with cold water. There is no shaving cream, perhaps only a little fat or oil if you are lucky. He scrapes the razor across your scalp. Scritch, scritch. Asterisk, he is creating the tonsure, shaving the top of your head completely bald, leaving only a ring of hair around the ears, symbolizing the crown of thorns worn by Christ. The razor is not always sharp, it pulls and tugs at the hair. Cold air of the cloister immediately hits your exposed scalp. It is a vulnerable sensation. Your head feels naked, sensitive to every draft. Razor burn is common, leaving red, irritated patches on your pale skin. But the shaving offers a brief relief from the other constant companion of monastic life, lice. They are everywhere, in the straw of your mattress, in the wool of your habit, and in the hair of your body. They are the worms that die not. You feel them crawling when you sit still in the choir. You feel them biting when you try to sleep. Wool is the perfect habitat for vermin. It is warm, dark, and rarely washed. You cannot scratch in public. It is undignified, so you endure the itch. It becomes a background noise to your existence, a constant, low-level physical irritation that tests your patience every minute of the day. For those who seek extra penance, there is the hair shirt. This is an undergarment woven from coarse goat hair or horsehair. It is worn directly against the skin, underneath the wool habit. It is abrasive. Every time you move, thousands of tiny, stiff hairs prick and scratch your torso. It turns every step, every bow, every breath into a minor act of suffering. You rub your newly shaved scalp. It is smooth, cold, and tight. You pull your hood up. The wool scratches your ears. The itch returns. The afternoon wears on. For some, the work is in the fields. For others, like the fieldserer, the work is in the dark hall, storerooms beneath the monastery. Let us descend into the quiet boredom of the inventory. This is the rhythmic counting of survival. The cellarer opens his ledger. The pages are filled with columns of Roman numerals. He walks through the rows of barrels and sacks, checking the supplies against the book. Listen to the monotony of the list. Heintem, asterisk thexif team sacks of winter wheat. The sacks are burlap, rough and dusty. They smell of dry earth and mouse droppings. Dropping item. Asterisk the tea barrels of salted herring. The wood of the barrels is damp. The smell is sharp, briny, and fishy. Item. Asterisk 50 wheels of hard cheese. They sit on wooden shelves, gathering a fine layer of mold that must be scraped off. They smell pungent and milky. Item. Asterisk XL jars of honey. The clay jars are sealed with wax. They are heavy and cool to the touch. Item. Asterisk L bundles of dried firewood, stacked high against the wall, smelling of resin and forest floor. Item. Asterisk fee gallons of lamp oil. A thick, viscous liquid that smells of rendered fat. The cellarer counts. He dips his quill. He makes a mark, a scratch. Asterisk, he counts again. He checks the beans. He checks the dried peas. He checks the salt blocks. It is a hypnotic, endless task. There is no glory in this room. There is only the preservation of calories. If he miscounts, the brothers starve in February. If he counts correctly, they merely survive. The air here is still and silent, insulated by the earth above. It is a timeless place, where the only movement is the slow drift of dust in the single beam of light from the high window. The counting continues, sack after sack, barrel after barrel. Outside, the light is failing. The grey sky deepens to a bruised purple. The shadows in the cloister lengthen, stretching across the grass like long, dark fingers. The bell rings for Simdevespersim, the evening prayer. This is the hinge of the day. The work is done. The hoe is put away. The pen is cleaned. The tools are returned to the shed. The monastery begins to wind down. You return to the church. It is darker now than it was at noon. The candles are lit again, reclaiming the space from the encroaching night. The smell of the church has changed. The cold air of the day has mixed with the sweat of the working men and the fresh smoke of the evening incense. Speciversivis full of Simus, full of psalms of thanksgiving. Fin magnificat anima mea dominum, asterisk, my soul magnifies the Lord. The chanting is softer now. The aggressive energy of the morning has been spent. The voices are tired, blending together in a weary, harmonious drone. It is a sound of resignation, of accepting the end of the struggle for another day. You watch the light fade through the stained glass windows, if your monastery is rich enough to have them, or the open shutters. The colours drain away. Blue turns to black, red turns to grey. The world outside is disappearing, leaving only the island of the church. Your body begins to cool down from the day's labour. The sweat dries on your skin, bringing a fresh wave of chills. You wrap your hands in your sleeves. You shift your weight on your tired feet. You long for the one comfort that awaits you before bed. Vespers ends. You file out of the church, but you do not go to the dormitory yet. For a brief, precious window of time, you are allowed to enter the Saintai calefactory, the warming room. This is the only room in the entire monastery that has a fireplace. It is a large, vaulted chamber. In the centre, or against the wall, a massive fire is roaring. Logs the size of a man's torso burn bright and hot. Crackle, pop. Asterisk, the air in here is thick and hazy with wood smoke. It smells of burning oak, drying wool, and unwashed bodies warming up. It is a primitive, comforting smell. You enter and stand near the fire. You cannot stay too long, and you cannot hog the heat. You must share it. You extend your hands towards the flames. You can feel the heat penetrating the calluses, thawing the stiffness in your knuckles. Your skin tingles and itches as the blood rushes back into your extremities. This is where the chilblains make themselves known, the red, swollen, itchy patches on your fingers and toes caused by the constant cold. As they warm up, they burn with a fierce, prickling itch. You rub your hands together. You lift your hem slightly to warm your feet. The leather of your sandals steams gently. There is a low murmur of conversation here, perhaps. It is the only time the strict rules of silence are slightly relaxed, though still no idle gossip is allowed. You might discuss the work of tomorrow or the health of a sick brother, but mostly you just stand there. You soak up the heat like a dry sponge soaks up water. You try to store it in your body to carry a spark of this fire with you into the freezing dark of the dormitory. The fire is mesmerizing. You stare into the embers, watching the wood turn to ash. It is the only bright color you have seen all day. Orange, red, gold. It dances in your eyes. Then the final bell rings. The time of warmth is over. You leave the fire. The cold of the corridor hits you harder now, a shock to your warmed skin. You walk back to the church for the final time. It is time for 40 Compline, the completion of the day. The church is pitch black, save for one single light before the altar. The monks stand in the shadows, faceless and formless. The service is short, protective, and deeply soothing. It is the prayer for sleep, for protection against the nightmares and the demons of the dark. Fe noctem quietum et finem perfectum considat nobis. Asterisk, may the Lord grant us a quiet night and a perfect end. The chanting is a whisper, a low, collective murmur that barely disturbs the silence. Salva nos Domine vigilantes. Asterisk, protect us, Lord, while we are awake. Watch over us as we sleep. The abbot walks down the line of monks. He holds a sprinkler. He sprinkles holy water over you. You feel the cold droplets hit your face. It is the final blessing. The service ends. The great silence begins. From this moment until after Lord's tomorrow morning, no word may be spoken, not a whisper, not a grunt. The silence is absolute. It is a heavy, sacred blanket that descends over the house. You pull your hood up over your shaved head. You tuck your hands into your sleeves. You walk in a single file line, a procession of shadows. Up the night stairs, you enter the dormitory. It is dark. It smells of straw and night. You find your bed. You sit. You do not undress. You check your belt. You lie down on the rustling mattress. You pull the rough blanket up. You close your eyes. Your body aches. Your feet are cold again. Your stomach is empty, but the day is done. You listen to the wind outside the walls. You listen to the breathing of the brother next to you. You wait for the darkness to take you. And you know, with absolute certainty, that in a few short hours the bell will ring again, the wheel will turn, and the cycle will begin anew. Sleep well. We continue the wrapping process, moving from the body to the head. This is the most delicate part of the operation. You take the finest linen you possess, cloth that is almost translucent, and begin to wind it around the neck. You must be careful to support the chin, ensuring the mouth remains closed, preserving the expression of eternal calm. You wind the linen in a figure, 8 pattern around the head, crossing over the forehead and under the base of the skull. The motion is repetitive and hypnotic. Over and over the white cloth covers the dark, dried skin, creating a smooth, abstract shape where a face used to be. Once the wrapping is thick enough, you pause to prepare the mask. It is not always solid gold. Often it is made of cartonage, layers of linen and plaster molded into shape, like papier, Munchen. It is painted to represent the deceased not as they were in life, but as they are now, a perfected, ageless being. Skin is painted gold, the color of the gods' flesh. The eyes are wide and lined with kohl. You place this mask over the wrapped face. It fits snugly. You secure it with more layers of resin, soaked bandages, sealing the identity of the traveler forever. Now comes the final pouring. The body is fully wrapped, a white cocoon lying on the stone table. You take a large jar of hot, liquid resin. It is black and viscous, smelling of pine forests and charcoal. You pour it over the entire mummy. It flows like thick molasses, seeping into the weave of the linen, filling every gap and crevice. As it cools, it will harden into a rock-solid shell, a waterproof, air-tight barrier that will protect the body from moisture and decay for thousands of years. The sound of the pouring is thick and heavy, a slow glug that signifies the end of the physical preparation. The mummy is placed into the first coffin. It is made of cedar wood, imported from distant Lebanon, smelling sharp and clean. The wood is carved to match the shape of the mummy, covered in hieroglyphs painted in blue and gold. You lower the heavy, resin-coated body into the wooden shell. It is a tight fit. There is no room for movement. You place the lid on top, you drive wooden dowels into the rim to lock it shut. Then, this coffin is placed inside a second, larger coffin, and sometimes that one is placed inside a third. It is a nesting doll of protection, layers of wood and words surrounding the silence of the dead. The funeral procession begins at the riverbank. The coffin is placed on a boat, shaped sledge drawn by oxen. The wooden wheels groan against the sand. The air is filled with the smoke of incense burners held by priests, a thick, sweet cloud of frankincense that drifts across the desert. Servants carry jars of wine, baskets of bread, and cuts of meat, not for the living, but for the dead to eat in the afterlife. The procession moves slowly towards the valley. The heat is intense. The only sounds are the rhythmic footsteps of the oxen and the low, droning chant of the lector priest reading from the Book of the Dead. You arrive at the tomb. It is cut deep into the limestone cliffs, a cool, dark corridor leading down into the earth. The walls are covered in paintings, scenes of the harvest, the river, and the gods, all rendered in vibrant ochre, malachite green, and Egyptian blue. You drag the sarcophagus down the sloping passage. The air gets cooler with every step, leaving the burning sun behind. You reach the burial chamber. It is small and square. You place the sarcophagus in the center. Before you leave, you perform the most vital ritual, the opening of the mouth. You take a special tool, an adze made of iron and wood shaped like a hook. You touch it gently to the lips of the mask. You touch it to the eyes. You touch it to the ears. You recite the spell, my mouth is opened by tar, my mouth, S-bonds are loosed by my city. God, this magic restores the senses. The mummy can now breathe, eat, and speak in the afterlife. It is no longer a corpse, it is a living spirit. You back out of the room. You sweep away your footprints with a broom made of palm fronds, ensuring no trace of the living remains. You close the heavy stone door. You seal it with wet mud. You stamp the mud with a necropolis seal. The darkness inside is absolute. The silence is perfect. For the first time in 70 days, the work is done. Desert wind blows over the entrance, erasing the path, leaving only the silence of eternity. And now, we leave the blinding sun of Egypt and the dry silence of the tomb. We travel forward in time to a place where the air is wet, heavy, and cold. The year is 1888. It is 3:00 in the morning. We are standing on the bank of the River Thames. The air here is not empty, it is a physical substance. The great fog, the P, super, has descended on the city. It is a thick, yellow-grey blanket that smells of coal smoke, sulphur, and damp brick. It muffles every sound, turning the largest city in the world into a quiet, ghostly labyrinth. You are a night watchman. Your coat is heavy wool, damp with the moisture of the fog. You hold a lantern fueled by oil, its glass pane clouded with soot. The light it casts is weak, barely penetrating 3 feet into the gloom. You are walking your beat along the cobblestones of the embankment. The ground beneath your boots is uneven. The stones are slick with a mixture of mud and coal dust. Temblip, clop, clip, clop, asterisk, your footsteps echo strangely in the fog, sounding as if they are coming from behind you. You stop to listen. The city is asleep, but it is not silent. From the river, you hear the mournful, low blast of a foghorn. It is a deep, vibrating bass note that rattles your chest. T-boo-oom asterisk, then silence. Then again, fee-boo-oom. Asterisk, it is the sound of a barge navigating blindly towards the docks, carrying coal or timber from the Empire. You pass a gas lamp. It is a tall, black iron pillar vanishing into the mist. Inside the glass housing, the gas flame hisses softly. Asterisk, it flickers, casting a pool of sickly yellow light on the pavement. The gas lamps are the only stars in this sky. They struggle against the dark, burning with the smell of rotten eggs and heated metal. You walk past the brick warehouses. They loom out of the fog like cliffs. The bricks are dark, stained by decades of industrial soot. You run your gloved hand along the wall. It feels gritty and cold. These buildings hold tea from India, wool from Australia, spices from the East. They smell faintly of wet cardboard, tar, and exotic pepper, leaking their scents into the damp night air. The cold here is different from the monastery or the desert. It is a wet cold. It seeps through the buttonholes of your coat. It clings to your mustache, forming tiny droplets of water. You pull your collar up. You can taste the coal smoke on your tongue, a metallic, bitter taste that defines the city. In the distance, you hear the rhythm of the knocker, upper. He is the man paid to wake the factory workers. He carries a long bamboo pole. You hear the faint tap, 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 as he gently strikes the upper windows of the tenements. He does not shout, he moves silently from house to house, a phantom waking the city for another day of labor. You turn a corner into a narrow alley. The fog is thicker here, trapped between the high walls. The sound of the city fades away completely. There is only the drip of water falling from a gutter. Drip, drip. Drip, asterisk, it lands in a puddle with a rhythmic, hypnotic regularity. You lean against a wall to rest. You watch the fog swirl around the light of your lantern. It moves like a slow, heavy liquid. It creates shapes that form and dissolve in seconds. You are tired. The night shift is long and lonely. But there is a peace in this isolation. The bustling, noisy, dangerous city is hidden, wrapped in cotton wool. For these few hours, you are the only person awake in the world. You are the keeper of the silence. You check your pocket watch. The metal is cold against your thumb. It ticks softly. Tick. Tick, tick, tick. Asterisk, 3:15 a.m. The dawn is still hours away. The sun will struggle to burn through this fog. You push off the wall. You lift your lantern. You take another step into the grey, swirling void. The cobblestones are slippery. The gas lamps hiss. The river flows silently towards the sea. And you continue your walk, one foot in front of the other, patrolling the quiet, sleeping heart of the empire. The fog continues to swirl around the gas lamps, blurring the edges of the city. You leave the riverbank and turn inland, moving away from the damp chill of the water towards the stifling, humid heat of the East End. It is deep night, but for some, the work is just beginning. You stop in front of a cellar door. The smell here is distinct. It is the smell of yeast, warm flour, and burning coal. This is the night shift of the Victorian bakery. You descend the steep wooden steps. The air gets hotter with every step downward. The bakery is a low-ceilinged room located directly beneath the street. The walls are white, washed brick peeling from the damp. The floor is covered in a dusting of white flour, like snow that never melts. In the center of the room stands the oven, a massive brick beast radiating a fierce, dry heat. The baker stands before it, stripped to his waist, his skin coated in a paste of sweat and flour. He is preparing the sponge, the starter dough. He reaches into a wooden trough, a coffin-sized box made of elm. Inside lies a mountain of greyish, white dough. It is heavy and dense. He plunges his arms into it up to the elbows. The sound of kneading is rhythmic and wet, foe-to-foe's lap. Push, asterisk, he puts his entire body weight into the motion. The dough resists him. It is alive, expanding slowly as the yeast feeds on the sugar. The air smells sour and sweet, a fermentation scent that is heavy in the lungs. There is no machinery here. Everything is done by hand and muscle. The baker takes a metal scraper and divides the dough. Scrape, thud, asterisk, he weighs each piece on a brass scale. He rolls the dough into balls, his hands moving in a blur of practiced motion. He places them on wooden peel, a long shovel-like tool. He slides the peel into the dark maw of the oven. Shush, clack, asterisk, the heat blasts his face, drying his eyes instantly. He pulls the peel back. The loaves are lined up in the dark, baking on the hot bricks. For 10 hours he does not stop. The flour hangs in the air like a fog of its own. It coats his eyelashes. It settles in the creases of his neck. He breathes in the dust of the grain. He drinks tepid water from a jug to replace the sweat pouring off him. The only sound is the roar of the fire and the rhythmic thumping of dough against wood. It is a hot, silent purgatory of carbohydrates. As dawn approaches, the bread is finished. Rows of crusty, golden loaves sit on cooling racks, crackling softly as they contract in the cooler air. The smell changes from raw yeast to the comforting, warm scent of baked bread, the smell of the morning. But the baker is too tired to eat. He wipes his face with a floury rag, leaving streaks of white. He climbs the stairs to the street, emerging into the grey light of dawn just as the city begins to wake up. We leave the bakery and return to the river, but now the tide has gone out. The water has receded, revealing a wide, glistening strip of mud along the banks of the Thames. This is the domain of the mudlark. You step onto the riverbed. The mud is deep, dark, and anaerobic. It smells of rotting vegetation, ancient silt, and the industrial waste of 1,000 factories. It sucks at your boots with a squelching sound. Squelch pop, squelch pop. Asterisk, you are looking for treasure in the trash. You walk with your head down, eyes scanning the grey slime. You carry a lantern, for the sun is hidden behind the smog. The light reflects off broken glass, pieces of pottery, and rusted metal. You spot something white. You reach down, your fingers sinking into the cold, wet clay. You pull it out. It is a clay pipe stem discarded by a sailor 100 years ago. You wipe it on your coat and put it in your pocket. You continue walking. The river laps gently at the edge of the mud. You find a copper coin, green with verdigris. You find a brass button from a soldier, S uniform. You find a piece of blue and white china, a fragment of a teacup dropped from a merchant ship. Each object is a tiny, silent ghost of the city. S past, the work is slow and methodical. The cold dampness of the riverbed seeps through your boots. Your back aches from stooping. The fog muffles the city above, so you exist in a quiet grey canyon of mud and water. You are a scavenger of history, picking through the debris of an empire, one step, one squelch, one discovery at a time. And now the scene shifts completely. We leave the damp, enclosed spaces of London. We travel thousands of miles east, across the plains of Europe, to a place where the horizon is endless and the cold is absolute. Welcome to the Russian Empire. The year is 1905. You are standing on a platform at the Yaroslavsky station in Moscow. Before you lies a beast of iron and steam, the Trans-Siberian Express. The locomotive is a massive black wall of steel, hissing steam into the frozen air. The smell is sharp, burning coal, hot oil, and snow. You climb aboard the carriage. The heavy door clangs shut behind you, sealing out the biting wind. You are entering a world of wood, velvet, and brass. You find your compartment. It is small, intimate, and warm. The walls are panelled in polished mahogany that glows in the light of the electric lamp. The seats are covered in thick, red velvet, crushed and soft to the touch. The whistle blows, a high, lonely shriek that echoes off the station roof. The train jolts, metal grinds against metal. Slowly, heavily, the wheels begin to turn. Chuff, chuff, chuff. Asterisk, the train gathers speed. The city of Moscow slides away, replaced by the white birch forests of the suburbs. You settle into your seat. This will be your home for the next 2 weeks. You are embarking on the longest train journey in the world. The rhythm of the train becomes the rhythm of your heart. Listen to the wheels on the tracks. Tim clickety, clack, clickety, clack, clickety, clack. Asterisk, it is a hypnotic, repetitive percussion. The carriage sways gently from side to side like a cradle outside the window. The world has turned white. The snow is endless. It covers the fields, the trees, the roofs of the tiny wooden villages that flash by. It is a blanket of silence that stretches for 5,000 miles. Inside, the atmosphere is stiflingly cozy. The heating pipes clank and hiss, keeping the compartment at a tropical temperature despite the sub-zero conditions outside. The air smells of dust, old fabric, and cigarette smoke. At the end of the carriage stands the solver. It is a large, brass urn, polished until it shines like gold. It is always boiling, filled with hot water for tea. You walk down the swaying corridor. Balancing against the movement of the train, you turn the tap. Steam rushes out. You fill your glass, which sits in a heavy metal holder called a stekannik. You return to your seat. You put a cube of sugar between your teeth and drink the hot, strong tea through it. In the Russian style, the tea is dark and bitter, the sugar is sweet. The glass rattles softly in its holder against the table. Tink, tink, tink. Tink, asterisk, the days blur into each other. There is no sunrise or sunset, only a gradual lightening and darkening of the grey sky. You pass through the Ural Mountains, the stone belt that divides Europe from Asia. You pass through the vast Siberian taiga, an ocean of pine trees, millions upon millions of them, standing silent under the snow. You spend hours just staring out the window. The landscape is monotonous, and in its monotony it is beautiful. A white field, a dark forest, a frozen river, a white field, a dark forest, a frozen river. It loops endlessly. Your eyes lose focus. The motion of the train lulls you into a trance. Night falls early. The conductor comes to make up your bed. He pulls down the upper berth. He lays out crisp, white sheets that smell of starch and lavender. He brings a heavy wool blanket. You lie down. The darkness outside is total. There are no streetlights, no houses, no moon, just the black void of Siberia rushing past. But inside, you are safe in your warm, moving box. You listen to the sounds of the train at night, the creaking of the wood panelling, the distant shovel of coal into the firebox, and always, the wheels clickety, clack, clickety, clack. Asterisk, sometimes the train stops. Not at a station, but in the middle of nowhere to take on water or wait for a signal. The silence when the wheels stop is sudden and profound. You can hear the wind howling outside a wolf, like sound tearing across the steppe. You can hear the metal of the train contracting in the extreme cold, loud souvenfangs and creaks of steam. The journey resumes. You drift into sleep, rocked by the motion of the Empire crossing the continent. You are suspended in time, suspended in the white silence, moving endlessly eastward towards the Pacific Ocean. Let us go deeper into the winter. Imagine you are a passenger in the third class. Here, it is not velvet and mahogany, it is wood and people. The carriage is open, plan, filled with bunks stacked 3 high. It smells of unwashed bodies, sheepskin coats, dried fish, and cheap tobacco. Yet, it is warmer here, more human. Peasants are travelling to new lives in the east. They sit on their bundles of belongings. They slice dark bread with pocket knives. They pour tea from kettles. An old woman is knitting a sock, the steel needles clicking softly. Fin click, 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 click. Asterisk, a soldier is playing a harmonica, a low, mournful tune that barely rises above the noise of the wheels. You watch the frost form on the inside of the window glass. It grows in fern, like patterns, intricate crystals of ice that bloom and spread until the glass is opaque. You press your thumb against it, melting a small peephole to see the snowdrifts piling up against the tracks. The train crosses the great bridge over the River of OB. The river is a ribbon of white ice, a mile wide. The bridge is a marvel of steel latticework. The sound of the train changes as it hits the bridge. It becomes deeper, hollower, echoing over the frozen water. Some die rumble, rumble, rumble asterisk. You arrive at a station in the middle of the night, Omsk or perhaps Irkutsk. The train stops for 20 minutes. You step out onto the platform to stretch your legs. The cold is shocking. It is 40 degrees below zero. The air in your nose freezes instantly, making the small hairs stick together. Your breath forms a cloud that hangs in the still air. Vendors are selling food on the platform, wrapped in thick furs. They sell hot dumplings, boiled potatoes, and frozen fish. You buy a hot pie wrapped in paper. It burns your fingers. A welcome pain. You eat it quickly, stamping your feet to keep the blood moving. The steam engine looms beside you, a breathing monster of heat dripping hot water onto the icy tracks. The bell rings. All aboard. You scramble back into the carriage, the warmth hitting you like a physical embrace. The train moves again. You are back in the rhythm. You are back in the trance. As you approach Lake Baikal, the scenery changes. The mountains rise up, jagged and white. Train track runs along the very edge of the lake. In winter, the lake is frozen solid, a sheet of turquoise, ice 3 feet thick. It is transparent. If you look down, you can see the black depth of the water beneath the ice. The train moves slowly here, creeping along the cliffs. You are witnessing the edge of the world. It is a place of brutal, indifferent beauty. There is no colour here but white, grey, and blue. There is no sound but the wind and the wheel. It is a perfect, hermetic world of travel, where the destination matters less than the endless, hypnotic motion of the journey. From the frozen plains of Siberia, we travel south and east, crossing the vast steppes until we reach the jagged peaks of the Yan Mountains. It is the year 1570, during the height of the Ming dynasty. We are standing on the stone spine of the world, the Great Wall. It is deep winter here as well. The wind is the first thing you notice. It does not blow in gusts. It is a constant, screaming force that comes down from the Mongolian plateau. It carries millions of tiny ice crystals that scour the stone face of the wall and sting your skin like needles. You are a sentry on the night watch. You stand in a small, square watchtower perched on a precipice. The tower is built of grey brick, cold and unyielding. Outside, the world is a monochrome of black rock and white snow. Inside, it is smoky and dim. You are wearing your winter gear. It is heavy. Layers of padded cotton armour, thick and stiff, that make you walk with a waddle. Over that, a heavy woolen cloak, dyed a faded red, now turned brown by grease and smoke. On your head, an iron helmet with a heavy leather neck guard. The metal is freezing. If you touch it with a bare hand, your skin will stick. Your world is defined by fire. In the centre of the watchtower, a small brazier burns. It is fed with dried dung and scraps of wood carried up from the valley below. It produces a thick, acrid smoke that stings your eyes and catches in your throat. But it is the only source of heat for 20 miles. You and 3 other soldiers huddle around it. The smell of the tower is distinct. Old sweat trapped in padded armor, the metallic tang of rusted iron, the sulphurous smell of the burning dung, and the faint, appetizing aroma of roasting garlic. He heats a small iron pot over the coals. Inside is a gruel of millet and water, flavored with a bulb of garlic and a pinch of salt. It bubbles slowly, fimbloop, bloop. Asterisk, you take your turn at the embrasure. The small window looking out into the darkness. You are looking for signal fires. You are looking for the movement of shadows against the snow, but mostly you are looking at nothing. The darkness is absolute. The mountains swallow the light. You can hear the wind howling through the crenellations of the wall, a sound like a low, mournful flute. Fenwer, Asterisk, your spear leans against the wall. The wood of the shaft is polished smooth by your grip. The iron tip is cold. You check the signal cannon, a small, squat iron gun sitting in the corner. It is loaded, ready to fire a warning shot that would echo down the line to the next tower, and the next, lighting a chain of beacons all the way to Beijing. But tonight, the cannon is silent. Your shift ends. You rotate back to the fire. You take a bowl of the millet gruel. It is hot, tasteless, and gritty, but it spreads warmth through your chest. You chew a clove of pickled garlic. The sharp flavor wakes you up. You sit on a straw mat. You take out your whetstone. Scrape, 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 asterisk. You sharpen your dagger. It is a mindless, rhythmic task. The sound fills the small room, competing with the wind. You inspect your boots. The soles are made of layered cloth, stitched tight. They are wearing thin. You take a needle and heavy thread and begin to mend a tear fin push. Pull, push, pull. Asterisk, the boredom is a physical weight. You are isolated in the sky, suspended between the civilized world of the south and the wild steppes of the north. You are a stone in a wall of stones, enduring the wind, waiting for a dawn that feels like it will never come. And now we leave the harsh, biting wind of the frontier. Trade the smell of dung fires and garlic for the scent of lavender powder and expensive perfume. We trade the rough stone floor for polished parquet and Aubusson carpets. Welcome to the Palace of Versailles. The year is 1685. It is 8 o'clock in the morning. We are entering the bedchamber of the Sunday King, Louis IV. The room is a masterpiece of gold leaf and velvet. Heavy brocade curtains block out the morning light. The air is still, warm, and smells of dried flowers and the wax of dying candles. The king is asleep in a massive four poster bed separated from the room by a gilded balustrade. But the room is not empty. Standing silently in the shadows are the first valet and the king's doctor. They have been waiting for the clock to strike. Chime, 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 asterisk, 8 o'clock. The first valet approaches the bed. He whispers, "Sire, it is time." The king stirs. The ritual of the Simdrand Leviv, the rising, begins. This is not merely getting dressed. It is a sacred ceremony of the state, a ballet of etiquette where every movement is scripted. The doors open. The entry familiar begins. The king's immediate family and the highest princes of the blood enter. They move silently, their silk stockings rustling, their heels clicking softly on the floor. They bow, they stand in a semi-circle. No one speaks unless spoken to. The king sits up. The first valet removes the king's nightcap. Another valet pours spirits of wine onto the king's hands from a gold basin. This is the only washing that will happen. A wet towel is passed. The king wipes his face. Now the dressing begins. It is a slow, agonizingly detailed process. The king removes his nightshirt. He sits naked to the waist. The Grand Chamberlain takes the day shirt, a garment of the finest white linen, embroidered at the cuffs. He does not hand it to the king. That is not his rank. He hands it to the Dauphin, the king's son. The Dauphin bows and presents the shirt to the king. The king slips his arms into the sleeves. Every button is an event. The first valet fastens the cuffs. The master of the wardrobe adjusts the collar. Now, the breeches. The king stands. Two valets help him step into his short trousers of red velvet. They fasten the silk ribbons at the knee. The king sits again. The stockings. These are made of silk, tight and delicate. A valet rolls them up the king's calves, smoothing out every wrinkle. Then the shoes. High heels, red lacquer, adorned with diamond buckles. The valet kneels, sliding the shoes onto the royal feet, buckling them with a sharp sieving clicker. The doors open again. The grandes and tries. Now the room fills with dukes, marshals, and bishops. There are 100 people watching a man put on his coat. The air grows warm with the body heat of the crowd. The smell of perfume, musk, ambergris, civet, becomes overpowering. The king stands to receive his wig. Barber has prepared 3 wigs for the day. He selects the morning wig shorter, lighter. The king bows his head. The wig is placed. It is a massive structure of curled hair powdered white. A cloud of fine white dust drifts into the air as it settles. The sword. The master of the horse presents the sword. The king buckles it to his waist. The metal jingles softly. The hat. A large hat with ostrich feathers. The king places it on his head, then immediately tips it to the assembly. Finally, the coat. It is blue velvet, embroidered with gold thread. It weighs 10 pounds. The sleeves are wide. The Grand Chamberlain holds it open. The king slips into it. He is now fully the monarch. The ritual has taken an hour. Not a word of substance has been spoken. It is a silent theatre of power where the handing of a handkerchief is a political victory. The king turns to the room. He looks at the crowd of faces. All desperate for a glance, he says, in a low, monotone voice, "I am going out." The doors are thrown open. The procession moves into the Hall of Mirrors. Let us leave the suffocating perfume of the court and travel to a place where the air is silent, dusty, and smells of paper. We are in the secret archives of the Vatican. It is deep underground. The year is indeterminate. Time does not exist here. You are walking down a corridor lined with shelves that stretch for 53 miles. The shelves are made of iron. The floor is linoleum. The lighting is artificial. A hum of electric bulbs that flicker occasionally. You are alone. The only sound is your own footsteps. Sim-click. Click, 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 asterisk. You are surrounded by millions of documents. Bundles of parchment tied with red ribbon. Leather, bound ledgers from the 12th century. Scrolls from the time of the Crusades. You stop at a shelf. You see a box labelled Nunciature of Venice, 1540. You open it. A puff of dust, dry and sweet, rises into the air. Inside are letters written in iron gall ink, the paper yellowed and brittle. You can hear the crackle of the paper as you lift a sheet. Crackle asterisk. You read a line. It is a report about the price of grain. It is mundane. It is boring. It is history sleeping in the dark. You close the box, you walk further. The archives are a labyrinth. There are sections here that no human has visited for 100 years. The air is cool and climate controlled, maintained at a steady 60 degrees to preserve the paper. You pass the section of miscellanea. You pass the section of papal bulls. You pass the section of failed annulments. It is a graveyard of intentions. The silence here is different from the monastery or the desert. It is the silence of information. It is a dense, heavy silence, weighted down by the millions of words surrounding you. You feel small. You feel the crushing weight of centuries of bureaucracy. You sit at a small wooden desk in a reading alcove. You have a stack of documents to sort. You pick up a stamp, thump, asterisk. You stamp the back of a page. You turn it over. Sim rustle, asterisk. You stamp the next one. Thump, asterisk. This is your task, to catalogue the past, to put numbers on pages that will never be read again. It is a peaceful, endless loop of paper and ink. We move now from the dry dust of the archives to the humid, green silence of the Amazon rainforest. The year is 1920. You are sitting in a small canoe, drifting down a tributary of the Rio Negro. The water is black, dyed by the tannins of decaying leaves. It is perfectly still, a dark mirror reflecting the canopy above. It is midday. The heat is heavy, wet, and physical. It presses against your skin. The air is saturated with moisture. It is like breathing soup. It smells of wet earth, rotting vegetation, and the sweet, cloying scent of orchids. The jungle is not silent, but it is monotonous. It is a wall of sound. The buzzing of cicadas is a constant, high-pitched scream that never changes pitch. Zez, zez, zez. Asterisk, it is so loud it becomes silence. You dip your paddle into the black water. Fin splash swirl. Asterisk, the canoe glides forward. You do not need to paddle hard. The current carries you. You look at the banks. It is a wall of green vines, ferns, mahogany trees, palms. They are tangled together in a chaotic embrace. There is no individual shape, just a mass of chlorophyll. A blue morpho butterfly floats past your boat. It is the size of a dinner plate. It flaps its wings slowly. Flap, flap. Asterisk, the iridescent blue flashes in the sun, then disappears. You are sweating. The sweat runs down your face, your neck, your back. You wipe your forehead with a handkerchief. but it is instantly wet again. The humidity is 99%. You hear the distant call of a howler monkey. It sounds like the wind moaning in a pipe. It echoes through the trees, mournful and hollow. You close your eyes and let the boat drift. You feel the gentle rocking motion. Fev fudge, rock, rock. Asterisk, the sun warms your eyelids. The buzzing of the insects lulls you. The smell of the river is ancient and deep. You are floating in the lungs of the world, drifting slowly downstream, going nowhere, in no hurry to arrive. From the water, we move to the ultimate stillness. We are in a Zen rock garden in Kyoto, Japan. It is autumn. Early morning. The garden is a rectangle of white gravel, raked into perfect wavy lines. 15 large dark rocks are arranged in the gravel. Moss grows around the base of the rocks, soft velvet green cushions. You are the gardener. You hold a wooden rake. Your task is to rake the gravel. You step onto the edge of the gravel. You pull the rake. Some shritch, scritch, scritch. Asterisk, the sound of the wooden tines dragging through the small stones is crisp and dry. You must create perfect parallel lines. They mimic the ripples of water. You must circle the rocks without breaking the pattern. It requires total focus. If your mind wanders, the line wavers. You breathe in, you pull the rake, you breathe out. You lift the rake, the air is cool and crisp. A single red maple leaf falls from a tree. It drifts down slowly, landing on the white gravel. It is a disruption. You walk over, you pick up the leaf, you put it in your pocket. The perfection is restored. You rake for hours. The pattern emerges slowly. Walls, straight lines, curves. It is a temporary art. The wind will disturb it. The rain will wash it. Tomorrow you will rake it again. This is the essence of the work. It is not about finishing. It is about doing. The repetition empties the mind. There is only the stone, the gravel, the rake, and the sound. Scritch, asterisk, the world fades away. There is no history, no future. Just the white field of stones and the rhythm of your hands. And as the rake completes the final line, you step back. You look at the garden. It is silent. It is still. It is complete. You sit on the wooden veranda. You watch the garden. You watch the stillness. Your breathing slows. Your eyes grow heavy. The journey is over. The silence remains. From the serene stillness of the Japanese garden, we travel across the ocean to a place where the water is not calm, but wild and endless. We are standing on a jagged rock off the coast of Scotland. The year is 1895. You are a lighthouse keeper. You live in a granite tower, a cylinder of stone rising 100 feet out of the churning Atlantic. It is night. The storm outside is a distant, muffled roar blocked out by walls that are 3 feet thick. Inside, it is warm, quiet, and smells of kerosene and polished brass. You are in the lantern room at the very top of the tower. Above you is the lens. It is a Fresnel lens, a masterpiece of glass engineering, the size of a small room. It looks like a giant glass beehive made of hundreds of concentric prisms, cut to catch the light and throw it 20 miles out to sea. Your duty is the maintenance of the light. It must never go out. You check the lamp. It burns vaporized paraffin oil. The flame is a steady, brilliant white cone unwavering inside its glass chimney. You adjust the flow of oil with a tiny brass wheel, sesquique. Turn asterisk, the flame brightens imperceptibly. The lens must rotate to create the flash. It floats in a bath of mercury to reduce friction. It is driven by a clockwork mechanism. Every few hours you must wind the weights. You insert a heavy iron crank into the gearbox. You turn it. Clack, 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 asterisk. It is heavy work. You can hear the heavy weights slowly rising down the central shaft of the tower, cables groaning under the tension. Once wound, the lens continues its slow, majestic rotation. You watch it spin. It is silent, gliding on the mercury. Huge beams of light sweep past you, cutting through the darkness of the room, illuminating dust motes for a split second before plunging you back into shadow. Light, dark, light. Dark, it is a rhythmic hypnosis. You pick up a cloth. It is soft chamois leather. You must polish the glass. You step up onto the gallery. You wipe the prisms. Send rub, asterisk. You remove a smudge of soot, a fingerprint, a speck of dust. The glass must be invisible. You work your way around the massive structure, polishing ring after ring of glass. Outside, a wave hits the rock base of the tower. Third, asterisk, the vibration travels up the stone, a gentle shudder that you feel through the soles of your boots. But you are safe inside. You are the only waking soul for miles, tending a mechanical sun in a glass cage, watching the gears turn. and the lights sweep over the black ocean, hour after hour. We leave the salt spray and the wind. We shrink our world down to the size of a fingernail. Welcome to Geneva, Switzerland. The year is 1750. It is deep winter. You are sitting at a wooden workbench in a small attic room. The window is north, facing to catch the even, grey light of the snow-covered Alps. The room is silent, except for the ticking of 100 clocks on the walls. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Asterisk, it is a chaotic, layered rhythm, a chorus of time. You are a master watchmaker. You are assembling a pocket watch. You wear a magnifying loupe over one eye. Through this glass, the world becomes huge. A speck of dust looks like a boulder. Human hair looks like a rope. You hold a pair of tweezers. They are made of fine steel, the tips file to needle points. You are picking up a screw. This screw is so small that if you dropped it, it would vanish forever. It is the size of a grain of sand. You hold your breath, you lower the screw into the movement. You insert it into a hole barely visible to the naked eye. You take a screwdriver, the handle no thicker than a matchstick. You turn it, twist, twist. Asterisk, the screw bites. It holds. You exhale, now, the oiling. You take an oiler, a thin wire with a tiny drop of oil on the tip. You touch it to the jewel bearing. The ruby glows pink in the light. The oil forms a perfect microscopic meniscus around the pivot. It must not overflow. It requires absolute steadiness. Your heart rate slows down to match the work. You pick up the balance wheel. It is the heart of the watch. The hairspring is a spiral of steel thinner than paper. You drop the assembly into place. The pivot finds the hole. You give it a gentle nudge. The wheel begins to swing, back and forth, back and forth. Asterisk, the escapement engages. Tick, tick, tick. Asterisk, the watch comes alive. It is a mechanical heartbeat. You spend hours here, hunched over the bench, lost in a world of brass gears and steel springs. The smell is specific: whale oil, brass polish, and old wood. The cold wind blows against the window pane. But your world is contained within a circle of gold only 2 inches wide. It is a meditation on precision, a prayer made of metal. From the freezing Alps, we travel south, crossing the Mediterranean, crossing the Atlas Mountains, until the green disappears completely. We are in the Sahara Desert. The year is 1324. You are part of a caravan crossing the Great Sand Sea. You are a merchant, traveling from Timbuktu to Cairo. The caravan is long 500 camels, walking in a single line, stretching to the horizon. It is late afternoon. The sun is losing its fury, turning the dunes a deep, burnished orange. The heat is lifting, replaced by the swift cooling of the desert evening. You are riding a camel. The motion is distinctive. It is a swaying, rolling gait, like a ship on a slow swell. Back, forward, back. Asterisk, you rock in the saddle. The rhythm is lulling. You hear the soft, padded thud of the camel's hooves on the sand. Whump, whump. Asterisk, there is no sharp sound here. The sand absorbs everything. You are wrapped in indigo robes, the fendegalmastest covering your face, leaving only your eyes exposed. The cloth smells of indigo dye and wood smoke. It protects you from the wind and the sun. The sun sets. It drops below the horizon rapidly, as if falling off the edge of the world. The sky turns purple, then a velvety, impossible black. The stars appear, not hundreds, but millions. The Milky Way is a bright white slash across the sky, bright enough to cast a shadow. The caravan halts for the night. The camels kneel, grunt, groan. Asterisk, you slide off the saddle. Your legs are stiff. The sand is cool beneath your feet. Now, the ritual of the tea. You sit on a woven rug. A small fire is lit using dried brush. It crackles brightly, a tiny point of light in the vast darkness. You put a small metal teapot on the coals. You brew the tea, green tea leaves, boiling water, and a lot of sugar. You pour it. But you do not just pour, you aerate it. You lift the pot high above the tiny glass cup. The amber liquid falls in a long, thin stream, hitting the glass with a satisfying foam for thud. You pour it back into the pot. You pour it again. Fine splash. Pour, splash. Pour, asterisk. This creates a thick head of foam on the tea. It is crucial. You take a sip. It is scalding hot, incredibly sweet, and bitter. It wakes the senses and calms the soul. You drink 3 cups. The first is bitter as life. The second is strong as love. The third is gentle as death. The camp settles down. The camels are chewing their cud, a rhythmic grinding sound. The men speak in low whispers, their voices swallowed by the dunes. You wrap yourself in your heavy wool blanket. The desert temperature drops to near freezing. You lie on your back and look up. The silence of the desert is heavy. It is a silence that has existed for 1,000,000 years. There is no wind tonight. No birds, no insects, just the breathing of the camels and the slow rotation of the stars. You are a speck of dust in an ocean of sand, drifting into sleep under the open vault of the universe. And finally, we move to a place of hushed industry and the smell of old paper. We are in the British Library Reading Room, London. The year is 1900. It is a massive circular room with a high domed ceiling. The walls are lined with books, 3 stories high. In the center, rows of desks radiate outwards like the spokes of a wheel. You are a scholar. You sit at desk number 42. The desk is covered in blue leather, worn smooth by elbows. You have a stack of books before you. They are heavy, bound in cloth and leather. The atmosphere is one of studious silence. You can hear the turn of a page 3 desks away. Sign rustle. Asterisk, you can hear the scratch of a fountain pen. Scritch, scratch. Asterisk, you can hear the soft cough of an old man in the corner. You open a book. The spine cracks gently. The smell of the paper wafts up, a scent of vanilla, almond, and decay. Old paper releases chemical compounds as it breaks down, creating that distinct old book smell. You are copying a passage. You dip your pen into the inkwell built into the desk. You write. The light comes from a green, shaded lamp, casting a pool of illumination on your page, leaving the rest of the room in shadow. Librarians move silently along the walkways, pushing wooden trolleys filled with books. The wheels squeak softly, squeak, squeak, squeak. Asterisk, they shelve the books with a soft thud tim. It is a sanctuary of introverts. No one speaks. Everyone is lost in a different world, a different century. Connected only by the shared silence of the dome. You turn another page, you dip your pen. The afternoon wears on, measured only by the pile of notes growing beside you and the slow fading of the light through the high windows. You are safe here, surrounded by the knowledge of the world, protected by the silence, reading, writing, and breathing the dust of history. From the cold, brass tube of the telescope, we travel back to the very beginning of history, to the place where writing began. We are in the city of Uruk, Mesopotamia. The year is 3200 BC. You are a scribe sitting in the courtyard of the temple. The sun is hot, baking the mud, brick walls around you. The air smells of dust, drying clay, and the slow, sluggish water of the Euphrates River nearby. You hold a lump of clay in your left hand. It is river clay, refined and smooth. It is cool and damp to the touch. You pat it into a shape, pat. Asterisk, you form a perfect rectangular tablet, the size of your palm. It is soft, ready to receive memory. In your right hand, you hold the stylus. It is a reed cut from the riverbank. The tip is cut into a triangular wedge. You do not write with ink, you write with pressure. You press the reed into the soft clay. Fin press. Asterisk, it leaves a wedge, shaped mark. This is cuneiform. You turn the tablet slightly, you press again. Ventris, asterisk, you are recording a transaction. 10 bushels of barley, 5 jars of oil. 5 jars of oil, vertical wedge, horizontal wedge. Asterisk, the motion is rhythmic. Your hand moves with practiced ease. The reed sinks into the clay with a soft squelching sound. Squish, click. Asterisk, the clay dries quickly in the sun. You must work steadily. If you make a mistake, you smooth it over with your thumb, erasing history. And start again. The courtyard is quiet. Bees buzz around the date palms. Other scribes are working nearby. A silent row of men pressing reeds into mud, turning the chaos of the harvest into the order of the list. You finish the tablet. You set it in the sun to bake. It will harden into stone, preserving this moment of silence for 5,000 years. We leave the heat of the desert and travel to the freezing white silence of a New England winter. The year is 1850. We are standing on the surface of Walden Pond, Massachusetts. The lake is frozen solid. The ice is 18 inches thick. Clear, blue, black ice, pure as glass. You are an ice harvester. The air is so cold it hurts your teeth to breathe. It smells of snow and pine needles. The world is white and silent, muffled by the deep snow on the banks. You hold a specialized tool, the ice saw. It is a 5-foot long steel blade with massive teeth. You are cutting the lake into a grid. You push the saw down into the groove. You pull it up, scritch, scratch, 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 scratch. Asterisk, the sound is harsh but rhythmic. The saw bites into the ice, throwing up a spray of white powder. It is slow work. You are sawing water. A horse stands nearby, hitched to an ice plough. Its breath steams in the air. It stomps a hoof on the ice. A thud asterisk, the sound echoes across the frozen surface. The horse waits patiently while you cut. You finish the cut. You take a heavy iron pike. You strike the block. Crack, asterisk, a perfect rectangle of ice floats free in the dark water. It bobs gently. You use tongs to haul it out. It slides onto the surface with a wet twinge. The block is heavy, transparent, and beautiful. It contains bubbles of air trapped from months ago. You load it onto the sled. You pack it with sawdust to keep it from melting. The smell of the fresh pine sawdust mixes with the cold, clean smell of the ice. You work until the sun goes down, turning the lake into a mirror of purple and grey. You are harvesting winter to be sold in the summer. Block by block, the lake is dismantled, leaving only black water and silence behind. From the ice, we move to the warmth of a workshop in France. We are in Lyon. The year is 1890. You are a silk weaver. You sit inside a giant machine. The jacquard loom, it is a structure of timber and string that fills the room. The air is warm and smells of machine oil, dust, and raw silk. Thousands of threads stretch out before you like a harp. They are white, shimmering in the afternoon light. Your job is to throw the shuttle. The shuttle is a wooden boat, smooth as glass, containing the bobbin of weft thread. You press the treadle with your foot. Clack, asterisk, the threads separate, creating a shed. You throw the shuttle with your right hand. Shoom, asterisk, it flies across the threads. You catch it with your left hand. You pull the beater bar towards you. Thump, asterisk, this packs the thread tight. Clack, shoom, thump, asterisk, time black, shoom, thump, asterisk, it is the heartbeat of the industry. The loom rattles and shakes. Above you, the punch cards click through the reader, dictating the pattern. Click, 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 asterisk, you do not think. Your body is part of the machine, your feet dance on the pedals. Your hands catch the flying wood. The fabric grows, millimetre by millimetre. A pattern of roses and vines appears in the white silk, created by the rhythm of your labour. The noise is loud, but it is a white noise. It drowns out the world. There is nothing but the rhythm. You watch the shuttle fly, back and forth, hypnotising you, weaving time into cloth. Finally, we seek the quiet of a dimmer, more mysterious room. We are in Florence, Italy. The year is 1480. You are an apothecary. Your shop is cool and dark, lined with wooden shelves. The air is thick with a complex, dusty smell. Dried sage, cinnamon, chamomile, old roots, and beeswax. You stand at a heavy marble table. In front of you is a large stone mortar. You hold a heavy pestle made of bronze. You are grinding medicine. You toss a handful of dried bark into the bowl. You begin to grind. Grind, crunch, grind, crunch, grunch. Asterisk, you move the pestle in a slow circle. You lean your weight into it. The bark snaps and breaks. It turns from chips into coarse grains, then into a fine powder. Dust motes dance in the shaft of light coming from the window. The smell of the bark releases, bitter and earthy. You add dried berries. They pop softly under the weight of the bronze pop. Pop asterisk, you work slowly. This is chemistry before science. You are mixing theriac, a cure, all with 50 ingredients. You check your recipe book. The page is stained and yellow. You take a small glass jar. You uncork it. Siverdai pop. Asterisk, you pour in a measure of honey. It flows slowly. A golden ribbon. You mix the powder into the honey. The sound changes. It becomes a sticky, wet, squelching sound. Squish, stir, asterisk. The shop is silent outside. The city of the Renaissance is bustling, but in here, time has stopped. Jars of lizard skins, dried toads, and strange roots look down from the shelves. You are surrounded by the cured parts of the natural world. You scrape the paste into a ceramic pot. You wipe the rim. You tie a piece of parchment over the top with a string. You knot it. You wash your hands in a basin of rose water. The scent of roses mixes with the bitter bark. You dry your hands. You look at the rows of jars, silent soldiers against disease. The work is done. The shop is closed. The silence of the herbs remains. From the darkness of the prehistoric cave, we step out into the blinding, white heat of the Italian peninsula. We are on the Appian Way, just south of Rome. The year is 100 AD. You are a Roman legionary assigned to engineering duty. The sun is a heavy weight on your back. The air smells of dry grass, hot dust, and the sweat of 1,000 men working in unison. You are building the road that will last forever. You are kneeling in the dirt. You hold a heavy iron hammer and a chisel. Your task is to shape the faudi, the massive polygonal paving stones made of basalt. You strike the stone, fing clang. Asterisk sparks fly. The sound is sharp and ringing. You strike again. Asterisk. You chip away a rough edge so the stone will fit perfectly against its neighbor. The road is a layer cake of engineering. First the sand, then the crushed rock, then the gravel in cement. And finally these massive black stones on top. You lift the stone, it weighs 80 pounds. You grunt with the effort, you drop it into place. In third asterisk, it wobbles slightly. You lift it again, you throw a handful of sand underneath. You drop it again for third. Asterisk now, it is solid, it does not move. You pick up your hammer, you move to the next stone. Thine clang, chip, lift. Thud, asterisk, the road stretches out before you, a grey ribbon cutting straight through the green hills. It is a line of absolute order imposed on the chaos of nature. You wipe the stone dust from your face. It tastes chalky and dry. You take a drink of Simdi Poskai, water mixed with vinegar, from your flask. It is sour and warm. You return to the hammer. The rhythm of the legion is the rhythm of the road. Clang, clang, clang. Asterisk, one stone at a time, marching towards the horizon. We leave the heat of the empire and travel to the top of the world. We are on the ice sheets of Greenland. The year is 1800. You are an Inuit hunter. The sun has set for the winter night. The aurora borealis is a curtain of green and violet rippling across the sky. It is silent except for the wind. You are building a shelter. You hold a snow knife made of bone. The snow here is not soft. It is wind, packed, hard as sandstone. You cut a block, fee crunch. Asterisk, the sound of the bone slicing through the packed snow is satisfying and dry. You lift the block. It is light but solid. You place it in a circle. You cut the next block. Front crunch. Asterisk, you place it next to the first. You trim the edge so they touch perfectly. The wind acts as mortar, blowing fine snow into the cracks, sealing them instantly. You work in a spiral, building the walls up and in. The world outside disappears slowly. The wind noise lessens. You place the final block, keystone, at the very top. Fundump, asterisk, you crawl inside. It is suddenly quiet. The wind is just a distant murmur. You light the sumkolik, the soapstone lamp filled with seal oil. A moss wick burns with a golden flame. The light reflects off the snow walls. The interior glows like a pearl. The air begins to warm up from the flame and your body heat. It smells of seal oil and ice. You sit on a fur skin. You are encased in snow, protected by the very element that defines your world. You watch the flame flicker. You are safe in the white silence. From the ice, we travel to a quiet room in Kyoto, Japan. The year is 1700, the Edo period. You are a master of Saim Kintsugi, the art of golden repair. On the low table before you sits a broken tea bowl. It is a masterpiece of black raku ware, but it is shattered into 5 pieces. Most would throw it away. You will make it more beautiful. The room is dim, smelling of cedar and the pungent, earthy scent of suvirushi, natural lacquer sap. You pick up a shard, you pick up a brush made of rat hair, incredibly fine. You dip the brush into the sticky lacquer. You paint the broken edge. Brush, brush. Asterisk, you fit the piece back onto the bowl. You hold it. You wait. Patience is the only tool that matters here. The lacquer takes weeks to dry. You must breathe slowly. You cannot rush the sap. Once the bowl is whole again, glued by the dark veins of lacquer, you perform the final step. You take a bamboo tube filled with powdered gold. You tap the tube gently over the wet lacquer seams. Tap, tap. Asterisk, the gold dust falls like stardust. It catches in the sticky sap. The ugly cracks become rivers of gold. You blow gently to remove the excess powder. Fin puff. Asterisk, the bowl sits on the table. It is no longer broken. It is defined by its scars. It glints in the candlelight. Black pottery, gold lines, silence. You clean your brush. You wipe the table. The repair is complete. Finally, we travel to the dense, humid jungles of Central America. We are in a Maya city in the Yukon. The year is 800 AD. It is before dawn. The jungle is waking up. The howler monkeys are calling. The air is thick with mist and the smell of wet limestone and damp leaves. You are kneeling on the floor of a thatched hut. Before you is the Fimatate find, a large sloping grinding stone made of volcanic rock. In your hand is the Simasimano, The cylindrical hand, stone, you have a basket of maize. The kernels have been soaked in lime water nixtamalization and are soft and swollen. You place a handful of corn on the stone, you grip the mano with both hands. You push forward. Grind asterisk, you pull back. Asterisk, you pull back. Fin grind. Asterisk, the sound is a deep, rhythmic rasping. Stone against stone. The corn is crushed into a wet yellow dough. Powan masa. It smells sweet and earthy. Push, pull, push, pull. Asterisk. Your shoulders move in a steady rhythm. This is the sound of the morning in every house in the city. 1,000 stones grinding 1,000 breakfasts. You add a splash of water. You grind again. The dough becomes smooth. The friction warms the stone. Your hands are covered in the yellow paste. It is heavy work, but meditative. You do not think of the future. You think only of the corn, the stone, and the motion. The sun rises, piercing the jungle canopy with shafts of light. You gather the dough. You pat it into a ball. Thim pat, pat, pat. Asterisk, the day begins. The grinding stops. The silence of the jungle heat descends. From the humid jungle, we travel to a dim, warm workshop in 14th century London. The air here is thick and heavy, smelling of rendered fat and beeswax. You are a chandler, a candle maker. Before you hangs a large wooden wheel, suspended from the ceiling. Hanging from the wheel are dozens of cotton wicks, weighted at the bottom. Below the wheel is a cauldron of molten tallow, animal fat, kept warm over a low fire. Your work is the work of gravity and patience. You spin the wheel slowly. You take a hoop of wicks off the wheel. You dip them into the hot fat. Dip. Asterisk, you pull them out immediately. Simbi lift. Asterisk, you cannot leave them in, or the wax will melt off. You must dip them just long enough to pick up a thin layer. You hang the hoop back on the wheel. You take the next one. Dip. Lift. Hang. Asterisk, the fat drips back into the cauldron. Trip. Drip, drip. Asterisk, the wicks cool in the air, the layer of fat hardening. You spin the wheel. By the time the first hoop comes back around, it is cool enough to dip again. You do this hundreds of times. The candle grows millimeter by millimeter. It is called making the candle grow. The room is quiet, save for the crackle of the fire and the slow squeak of the wooden wheel turning. Squeak, dip, squeak. Dip, asterisk. It is a hypnotic circle. You are coating time in layers of wax. The smell is warm and comforting. Your hands are greasy and soft from the fat. You watch the candles thicken, transforming from string into cylinders of light. One dip at a time, we leave the warm wax and travel to a riverbank in Samarkand. The year is 750 AD. You are a paper maker. You stand beside a large vat filled with water and mulberry bark fibers. The mixture looks like cloudy milk. You hold a decal, a wooden frame with a fine bamboo screen. You plunge the decal into the vat. Splash. Asterisk, you scoop up the water. You lift it out. Now, the shake. You must shake the frame gently to lock the fibers together. Sign left, right, forward, back. Asterisk, the water drains through the screen. Drip, 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 drip. Dasterisk. What remains is a thin, wet sheet of grey pulp. You turn the screen over. You press the wet sheet onto a pile of felt. Squish. Asterisked, this is couching. The paper releases from the screen. You turn back to the vat. To dip, scoop, shake, drain. Asterisk, the rhythm is the rhythm of the water. Your arms move in a perfect wave motion. The sound of the water draining is a constant white noise. The pile of wet paper grows. Later, you will press it with a heavy screw to squeeze out the water. For now, it is just the dip and the shake. The air smells of wet wood and starch. The river flows nearby. You are making the blank canvas for the words of the world, sheet by wet sheet. From the paper mill, we travel to the glittering silence of a church in Ravenna, Italy. The year is 540 AD. You are a mosaicist. You are high up on scaffolding, near the ceiling of the basilica. The air is cool and smells of wet lime plaster. You hold a small basket of tentasserie, tiny cubes of coloured glass and gold leaf, sandwiched between glass. You are creating the face of an angel. You spread a small patch of wet mortar on the wall. Scrape. Asterisk, you pick up a single cube of blue glass. It is the size of your fingernail. You press it into the mortar. You tilt it slightly so it will catch the light. You pick up a cube of gold. You press it in. Press adjust. Press. Asterisk, you do not paint with a brush, you paint with stones. It is incredibly slow. A square foot takes days. Sound is minute. The clink of glass in the basket, the soft squelch of the lime, the scuff of your sandal on the scaffold plank. You are working in a cloud of dust. Below you, the church is empty. You focus on the eye of the angel. It requires 50 tiny stones just for the pupil. You place a black stone, then a green one, then a white one for the reflection. You step back, the eye looks at you. It glitters. You step forward, you place another stone. You are building eternity out of broken glass. Finally, we descend deep into the earth. We are in the Wilicka salt mine, Poland. The year is 1600. You are 300 feet underground. The air is cool, dry, and tastes of salt. It preserves everything. The timber beams holding up the roof are white with salt crystals. You are a miner. You hold a heavy pickaxe. You are carving a chamber out of solid rock salt. The walls are grey and translucent. If you hold your lamp up, the light shines into the wall. You swing the pick. Thud. Asterisk salt is not like coal. It is harder, but it fractures cleanly. A chunk of salt breaks off. It falls to the floor, fierce in clatter. Asterisk, you swing again, feathered. Asterisk, there is no dampness here, no rats, no rot. It is a sterile, preserved world. The silence between strikes is absolute. The earth absorbs all sound. You can hear your own breathing. You can hear the blood in your ears. You gather the salt chunks into a wooden barrel. You roll the barrel to the hoist. Sremble, rumble. Asterisk horses live down here, blind from the darkness, turning the great wooden capstans to lift the salt. You hear the distant stomp of a hoof. You lick your lips. They taste of salt. Your skin is covered in salt dust. You are pickling yourself while you work. You return to the face of the wall. You lift the pick. Find. Asterisk, you are carving a cathedral of salt in the dark hollowed out of the ancient sea that dried up millions of years ago. From the rhythmic groaning of the Dutch windmill, we travel deep into the heart of the Black Forest in Germany. The year is 1400. You are a charcoal burner. You live alone in a hut made of bark and branches. The forest around you is dense, dark, and silent. The trees are so tall they block out the sky. In the center of a clearing stands your creation, the clamp. It is a massive conical mound of earth, 10 feet high. Inside the mound, tons of carefully stacked oak logs are burning, but they are not burning with a flame. They are smoldering. Your job is to starve the fire of oxygen. If it gets too much air, the wood burns to ash. If it gets too little, the fire goes out. You must keep it exactly in the middle, baking the wood into black, pure charcoal. You walk around the mound. You are looking at the smoke. The smoke escaping from the vent holes tells you everything. White smoke means steam. The wood is drying. Blue smoke means carbonization. The charcoal is forming. Black smoke means danger. The wood is burning away. You carry a long wooden pole. You climb the ladder, leaned against the smoking mound. You are standing on top of the oven. The heat coming up through your boots is intense. You poke a ventilation hole. Thurvend, furvend, humpasterisk. A jet of blue smoke shoots out. You cover another hole with a piece of wet turf. Splat, asterisk. You listen to the mound. It makes sounds. Crack, settle, hiss. Asterisk, it is a living beast that you must tend day and night for a week. You cannot sleep for more than an hour. You are covered in soot. Your face is black. Your hands are black. You smell of wood vinegar and tar. You sit by your small campfire, watching the blue smoke curl into the night air. You are the keeper of the slow fire, turning the living forest into black fuel for the forges of the world. We leave the smoky forest and travel to a quiet tatami, matted room in Japan. The year is 1650. You are a sword polisher. Before you lies a katana, forged by a master smith. But it is dull and grey. It is your job to reveal the soul of the steel. You sit on a low stool over a wooden tub of water. You hold the blade with a cloth. You pick up a whetstone. It is a block of sedimentary rock quarried from a specific mountain in Kyoto. You splash water on the blade, sunburn splash. Asterisk, you begin to rub the stone against the steel. Shasterisk. The sound is hypnotic. It is the sound of friction. You work in sections, 2 inches at a time. Push, pull, push, pull. Asterisk, you must maintain a perfect angle. If you wobble, you ruin the geometry of the blade. The water turns grey with steel dust. This is the slurry. It acts as a polishing compound. You switch to a finer stone, then a finer one. You use 7 different stones. The grey steel begins to shine. The Hamon, the temper line, appears like a wave of mist on the metal. It takes 10 days to polish one sword. Your fingers are wrinkled from the water. Your shoulders ache, but you do not stop. The room is silent, except for the swish of the stone and the drip of water. Drip, drip, asterisk. You are grinding away the imperfections, revealing the deadly beauty hidden inside the iron. From the quiet water, we jump to the roar of the Industrial Revolution. We are on the footplate of a steam locomotive, the Flying Scotsman, racing from London to Edinburgh. The year is 1895. It is night. You are the stoker, the fireman. You stand on the vibrating metal floor of the cab. In front of you is the firebox door. It is a mouth of hell. The driver stands on the right, watching the track. You stand on the left. Your job is to feed the beast. You grab the shovel. It is heavy steel. You swing it into the coal tender behind you. Crunch. Asterisk, you pick up 20 pounds of coal. You step on the pedal to open the firebox doors. Feet. Asterisk, the doors swing open. The heat blasts out. It is blinding white hot. It sings the hair on your arms instantly. You swing the shovel. You throw the coal into the back corners of the firebox. Whoosh. Asterisk, the coal hits the fire. The flames roar. You let the doors snap shut. Taman asterisk, Tianj swing. Clang. Whoosh. Clang. Whoosh clang asterisk, you do this every 30 seconds for 8 hours. The train is moving at 80 miles per HR. The wind rushes past the open cab, screaming. The wheels hammer on the tracks. Da-dum, 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 asterisk. You are sweating rivers. Coal dust sticks to the sweat, turning you into a statue of black grime. You wipe your eyes with a rag. You drink water from a tin can. You watch the pressure gauge. The needle trembles. You need more steam. You pick up the shovel again. Crunch. Swing clang. Asterisk. You are the muscle behind the machine, shoveling the night away into the fire. Finally, we travel to the misty silence of the Venetian lagoon. We are on the island of Burano. The year is 1780. It is a foggy afternoon. The light is soft and diffused, perfect for straining eyes. You are a lace maker. You sit on a wooden chair outside your colourful house. On your lap is a cylindrical pillow cushion. You hold a needle and a spool of thread. The thread is gossamer, thin, made of the finest linen. You are making San Punto in aria, stitches in the air. There is no fabric backing. You are creating the lace out of nothing but knots and loops. You stare at the pattern pinned to the pillow. You push the needle through a loop the size of a pinhead. You wrap the thread. You pull it tight. Click asterisk, the tiny knot forms. You do this thousands of times. Summed loop, knot, pull, loop, knot, pull, asterisk. Your hands move in a blur, but the lace grows agonizingly slowly. An inch a day. The lagoon laps against the canal walls nearby. Sislap. Slap. Asterisk, seagulls cry in the distance. Old women sit in a circle with you, all working in silence or whispering low gossip. Thing click, click, click asterisk, the sound of needles hitting thimbles. Your eyes burn from the focus. You stop to look at the horizon, to let your eyes rest on the grey water. Then you look back down. You are weaving a spiderweb of geometry, a fabric so delicate it looks like frost, created by the infinite patience of your fingertips.